It's alright. Everybody knows who we are. This is our first episode of the Polishers Podcast, Polishers Corner. So since most people already know who I am, let's get this out of the way. Who are you?
And what do I do? Oh, no, that's who I am. That's Zach Cambron.
This is how it is all day.
Yeah.
Just get ready for shenanigans.
Yeah. Zach Cambron, the Evans, Nebraska franchise. Been doing this for a little while.
But you didn't start off as Evans, Nebraska franchise.
No.
You started off as something else?
Yeah, I was premier. Oh, what the heck was I?
American Polishing Pros.
Thank God for the real boss over here.
Hold on a second. We gotta edit that out.
No, we're not editing that out at all. Parker just saved you.
Yeah, he just saved my butt. American Polishing Pros. That's what I was. I couldn't remember my own name.
That's funny. So, when did you start American Polishing Pros?
Oh shoot, that was 5 years ago. I started that.
So 5 years already? Were you polishing before that?
No.
Or you started it right when you started your American Polishing Pros?
I started it right when I started American Polishing Pros.
And you...
Actually, I started it. How I started. You want me to get in how I started?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's what we're doing.
Actually, that's how I started it we bought a house an hour from where we were living, and I didn't know what I was going to do while I got down there. I was doing some mechanic work there where I was living in Hastings, and
Nebraska, for everybody.
yeah, Nebraska. I'm sorry.
Hastings
Yeah, Hastings, Nebraska. We moved to Superior, which is about an hour south, right on the Kansas border, and I started detailing cars for just something to do until I figured out what I wanted to do down there. And I was detailing a pickup for a gentleman, and he asked me if I knew how to polish semis, and I was like, yeah, of course I do. I just don't have all my stuff. I sold it all.
But you didn't.
No, I had no idea. I had no friggin' idea, actually. So he goes, awesome, well, we're selling a truck and we need it polished. Can you do it? I was like, yeah, just let me buy all my stuff back and we'll get it done. So instantly I rushed home that night and I watched, I don't know how many hours of YouTube videos on how to polish.
YouTube saves us all, right?
Yes. Yeah, and the wildest thing is, to be honest with you, I probably watched Evan's videos, and I didn't know who you were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At all. Not even a little bit. I probably watched your videos, and there's a bunch of guys on there that didn't really have that great of content, but I didn't know what I was really looking for, and yeah, that's kind of how it went down. That's how I started polishing. I did my first truck, and everyone down where I was at, there wasn't anyone around there, and so they just kept calling, and we thought we were doing something big, doing about a truck a day. Thought that was big time. Now we were really making money too. Yeah, that was wild. Yeah, and then the rest is kind of history, which I'm sure we'll get into how I met Evan. So,
yeah. So one truck a day?
Oh, that was luck.
One every other day?
Yeah, it was Peterbilt. It was 2 days, maybe 2.5 days.
So just so that everybody has a frame of reference, like we all started somewhere.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I get that call a lot. Like a lot of people will call in, especially new polishers. They'll call me and they're like, man, I see you're doing 2-3 trucks a day. I'm like, yeah, it wasn't always like that.
Oh no!
I mean, they beat themselves up about it.
No, I tell you what, we didn't start doing multiple trucks a day until when I met you. What year was that? When I met you for the very first time.
That was Tulsa. What, 3 years ago?
Tulsa 3 years ago.
So we've been Shell Rotel in Tulsa.
So shoot.
So that was
maybe it was
4 years ago.
4. Yeah, it had to have been because I've been doing this about 5 years. Yeah, so
it was
about 4 years ago
Yeah,
already.
that's right.
Yeah. So we hadn't done multiple trucks in a day for a year.
I just remember your face. That first day you guys walked on the lot, it was you, Keenan, and Parker, right?
Mm-hmm.
That came down to Tulsa. And the three of your guys' faces when we had 4 trucks parked in the lot ready waiting for us, the look on your faces were like, we're doing these how long? How long we got to do these? And I'm like, we're gonna have these done by lunch. And you're like, yeah, okay.
Actually, the funny thing was when we walked out. No, because when we actually first ever saw anything was when we met you in Springfield at like 5 in the morning or 3 in the morning.
At J&L.
At J&L.
Was that on the way to?
That was before.
That was before
Tulsa.
Tulsa.
That was before Tulsa?
And we were freaking so blown away.
Because we got lost.
Well, yeah, because we got lost. But we were so blown away on how your wheels looked. I'll never forget that. That was the first thing I saw was your rims. And it was just mind-blowing how good they looked. And we thought we were pretty good. And everybody, what we were doing, we thought we were doing pretty
I
dang good.
appreciate that. That means
No, that's serious. And I remember being really blown away and talking.
Where were we headed that you guys met me at J&L?
Because we were supposed to come earlier to J&L to help you, and we didn't get there.
Yeah, you guys got lost and came in crazy late. But where were we headed? Were we headed to?
We were heading to Tulsa.
We were headed to Tulsa for that.
Yeah. We met in Springfield and then shot down to Tulsa.
Oh, see, I don't know how I forgot that. Like, I remember you guys being in Tulsa, but I don't know if it maybe because we were almost done by the time you guys got there.
Yeah, you were about wrapped up.
Didn't we sleep in a hotel for like an hour that night?
Yeah.
That was the most ridiculous night ever. I think we all just needed a place to lay in a bed for like a minute.
Yeah, and then you told us that we were going to sleep when we got there, and then right when we got there, we started working. Yeah, it was pretty nice. Hour of sleep. We were so excited though because we'd never seen show trucks. We'd never seen anything like what J&L had, and all we really saw there was maybe at that time some of their older show stuff.
Yeah, I don't remember what. I think that was right after Never Satisfied with Bill.
I think so. We had never seen that truck.
Yeah,
it wasn't even there.
Yeah, it wasn't even there when we were there. Contender, I think, was there.
We did Contender for that show.
Yeah.
No, they didn't go.
No, they didn't go. They didn't.
Or we just stopped there to make some money on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just to help.
See, that's how crazy the show life is. Like sometimes you just stop by somebody else's place to help fund the gas bill on the way to a show. Like
pretty much.
It just gets crazy sometimes. But
no, going back to that wheel though, and I'll never forget this because I remember the first time we met, and I remember seeing the wheels, and we were blown away by that. And then I remember saying something about it, and you're like, I can teach you how to do that in 10 minutes. And we're like, yeah, okay. Yeah, and no BS. It was that night we were doing those wheels just like that. We had no idea that it was, we didn't know your process. We were still on an old school process that, I mean, it works, but it didn't look like that when it was done. Yeah,
I always tell everybody, like, polishing's easy. In a relative roundabout way, polishing's easy. Like anybody can polish. There's 100 different ways to do it with 100 different products and 100 different processes. And it's like eventually, I mean, I've been doing it 20 years now, and it's like I've fine-tuned my process. I learn some new things every year. It seems like I always stumble across something, whether it's somebody I trained that all of a sudden I was like, whoa, they just did something that I've never tried before, and it worked. And it's like, all right, how can I roll this into what I'm already doing? And I've kind of fine-tuned my process now to where we do expedite it. I mean, we're working on a lot of fleets. I mean, even here in the shop today, we did 4 nasty dump trucks with a crew of 5 of us, and we knocked it out we started at 7:30.
Something like that, yeah.
And we were done by 12:30.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we knocked out 4 full dump trucks. Like, we were pulling wheels off, throwing them on the wheel machine. Like, we were just banging it out. And
yeah, if we didn't have to do that, we could have had them suckers done in 30 minutes.
That last one, we got that thing done in like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, we were cruising. That truck was rough. I mean, really, really rough, and we got it done in 45 minutes. So it's like...
And one thing I want to say on that note, where people get discouraged too in the beginning, is that's where the money is, and people don't understand. You got to be quick, fast, and good all at the same time. Yeah. To me, unless you're going to charge high prices,
but even then, like, let's go off into that for a second. Like, and I know you're kind of in the same general market we are. Like, you make a little better money over where you're at. Like, the market's a little better, it's a little stronger. But if you drag out a truck for 2 days and charge a customer $2,000, how often do you see them?
Never.
You're going to see them once every other year.
Exactly.
I mean, that's exactly where it's at. So I feel like my first 6 years of business were probably the roughest because I ate a lot of crow. I mean, a lot of crow. Like, I did a lot of work I didn't want to do for way less money than I wanted to do it for.
You used to always give me crap about that. I remember doing grain trailers for like pennies. Yeah.
I remember you called me.
Yeah, losing money.
You were going to work on a grain trailer. What did you say you wanted to charge them? $1,000?
$1,000, do the whole thing. We
and
did
I was like,
hopper side rails.
I was like, listen, if you're doing hoppers and stuff, you better be at $3,000 because you're not going to make money on it. You're like, I just want to do one for the sake I say I did one.
I think it took us like 2 guys. It took us like a week to do it too. Like,
I remember you calling me like 3 days in. You're like, I'm never doing one ever again. And then 7 days later, you're like, well, just got it done. 7 days, like 80 hours. That was almost worth it.
It took me 2 months to get paid. Yeah, it was all around a good deal. It was a good deal. Yeah, the guy calls me and asks if I was ever going to come get a check. Yeah, we were trying to get a check before we left. Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, so I feel bad because a lot of new polishers, like, it does take time to learn.
It does.
I mean, to get to where we're at, like.
I was sped up because of you. You'd already done it, so you knew.
And
we were lucky that way.
I had just rammed it to you the whole time and just forced you to push it.
Exactly.
But a lot of people don't understand that if you to do it perfect, yes, it always takes time. Like you want to do perfection stuff, it's going to take time. But at the same time, you got to figure out what your customers want and what. I hate to say what you can get away with, but that's really what it's at. Like, what can you get away with? Because the longer it takes, the more money it costs you. And it's hard to justify charging people what it really costs and what it needs to cost if you're going to take that long a time to do it.
Exactly. And even back with me starting out, we were charging, X amount per truck.
That's
and I remember, and used to ram that in my head, but...
I think I just put out a YouTube video, I think last week.
Yeah, you did.
On advice for new polishers.
Yes. And that was really...
charging by the truck.
You can't, and the fact is you charge by the truck. Well, what would happen to us is, let's say I charge $500 for a Peterbilt. That's great if all I'm doing is, wheels, tank, nose box, something like that. Well, now you throw in fenders, you throw in this,
headache rack, visor,
you throw in all this BS, and next thing you know, you start charging by the piece, and you're like, geez, I'm losing like $100 here. But honestly, that was going to be a hard transition for me because I already had customers over a year.
You and I had a lot of conversations about that.
We were
worried you were going to lose guys.
Yeah, I was real worried. And after I really, when I got there and I was comparing what I charged them last year, it really wasn't terrible bad, but I knew I was covered.
It was a difference.
It was a difference.
Yeah.
So, but when I say that, $100 difference is quite a bit.
And if you talk to most guys understand that.
Yeah,
they're not just 6 wheels. They got 6 wheels, 2 tanks, 2 boxes, a grill, a visor, a headache rack. Like, most guys do understand. And especially when you're new, you can kind of play off of like, I was inexperienced, I didn't realize I was gypping myself.
Well, see, and I was paying my employees by the piece. Why I was charging by the truck, it made absolutely no sense. And that's
I did that too, though. I can't talk.
And that's how that helped me justify a little bit more, because I had some guys, especially big clients, like guys with that. A lot of money was spent.
Yeah, when you're doing 25, 30 trucks for one customer, they notice when it's $100 per truck difference.
$100 difference, that's
actually $2,500, $3,000.
Yeah, that's a big difference, and they're like, what the heck, And I had one, he questioned me, he goes, Zach, you're here so much, why is it so different? And I explained to him, I said, this is how I'm paying my guys, this is how I have to do it.
The problem for me is it's not really sustainable. Like, it is for a short term, but when you start doing it for a long time, and you start getting into, like, some of these bigger fleets, like I said, if you're $2,500, $3,000 short, that comes out of your bottom line. Mm-hmm. And when it comes out of your bottom line, the end of your year really looks a lot more different. Like, $100 is a small amount for one truck, but at the same time, when it stretches out, I mean, we're not talking like 50 trucks a year. No, we're talking a couple hundred trucks a year that we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, if I'm losing an extra $100 a truck all year long, those expenses accrue somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And
huge.
You saw it your first year.
Oh,
When you and I sat down at the end of the year and went through your books, I think you and I had you had a revelation for a minute.
Well, yeah, it was huge. Like, I guess you didn't really realize it because it was so much fast money coming in, and I wasn't used to that in the beginning, so I didn't really see it until the end of the year. I'm like, oh my gosh, how much money I lost?
I think that's some of the appeal of polishing is the big money.
Yeah.
Like, once you start doing 2 to 3 trucks a day, like you start seeing bigger
this is where I can actually make a living,
Yeah.
You hear the stories from all the different polishers, how much money they can make, and well, just by asking how much they charge, you're like, wow, man, if I did this much, well, little do you think about is all the other little expenses, paying someone to do it and all that BS and how you're charging.
Once you get employees and then, like us, we were living the show life for that stuff adds up
honestly, you start looking, when you and I were talking about even last year, when I was going through all my when I was going through all my stuff last year, there were some months in there during the summer where I was like, how in the heck, how my gross was so low, I couldn't realize it.
Yeah.
You start throwing
meals.
Just the show life in general. I think that's one misconception people see with Evan. You know what I mean? And that was even us too in the beginning. Right. Before we really knew who you were, that was our thought, is like, I bet he's making millions at these shows.
Oh,
and I think
God.
everyone thinks that. And like it's a fun life.
I just threw my numbers out there. In that
Yeah,
last
no,
YouTube
I
video,
know,
like,
I know you did. And
I've had
that's
a bunch of people call me and
real.
they're like, listen, there's no way you lost 60 grand going to the shows. I'm like, I didn't.
Easy.
My business here at the shop still made money. If
Yeah.
I was just living off the shows, I would have lost 60 grand that year
Easy.
if I had just gone to the shows.
Easy.
Like, I still made money because the shop did really well that year. But had the shop not done well that year, I'd have been out 60 grand. Like, that's a big number.
Exactly.
Like, and I didn't realize until I sat down with my accountant and was like, how come my bank account isn't as fat as I thought it was going to be?
Well, just think of it, usually, just an idea. Let's say you gross 1,000 a day, roughly there. That's 5,000, 6,000 a week somewhere. I mean, you're working. You're at a show for a week and a half, and I'm telling you right now, you're not going to make that 5,000. You're not going to make up that money. I can guarantee you that.
Even if you're just eating Burger King, McDonald's, that kind of stuff.
And you're staying at a cheap Airbnb or the cheapest motel
even the cheap
you can find.
Airbnbs, like, when we travel our whole crew.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm getting an Airbnb big enough for everybody.
Which is like 8 people.
Yeah, so you're
whatever.
always talking $200, $300 a night.
Which is cheaper than a hotel, but still, that's
cheaper than a hotel.
That's over $1,000. You know what I mean?
And how often did we stay in an Airbnb that was like right next to the place
Never.
where we were at?
Never.
It was always a 10, 15, 20, 30-minute drive. So now you got fuel back and forth every day, traffic every day. That stuff adds up.
It does, and for like a lot of the people that see, because everyone always says like, oh man, you're so lucky. Even if they don't know you, even the people that just see what we do.
We're fortunate in what.
I agree with that. No, I am so.
But it comes with a cost.
Thankful for what I've got to do, and what you've opened me to the things that I've got to do. But at the same time, people don't understand the cost of what it took.
It comes with a cost.
The hours and the just the headaches of dealing with it all sometimes. I love it.
I know in Nebraska you drive a lot. Like,
we travel all over.
Because you don't have a shop like we have here. You do all mobile polishing.
All mobile.
And most of your customers are hour, 2, 3, 4, 5 away.
Even in state, they're hour, 2, 3 away. You know, and I hear these polishers talk about they got to travel 70, 80 miles. And I'm just laughing. It's like, geez, that's a nice day. I wish I only had to travel 80 miles. There's a lot of times, that Parker and I, we could be on the road for 2, 3 days, or well, not 3 days, but 2 days at least. When we go to Texas, things like that. When we're on the road for almost a whole day. We're coming here. It's almost 12 hours for us, 11 hours.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know. It's one of them things. People see the life. They don't. It can be very fun and it can be very profitable. Not the show part, but the traveling. And working.
And the exposure you get.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
It's great there. But be prepared to
just have your world wrecked.
Yeah, and one thing I always want to say, I don't know why I look at the camera so like you, but anyways, one thing I want to say that people don't see either, besides the stuff, like us getting to work on trucks for people that or people on television shows, or getting to do things like that, or meeting the famous people that are involved in trucking or whatever. That's awesome. But one thing, and this kind of stuck in my head, Parker that works for me, his youngest son came out on the porch one day when I was picking him up, and it was daylight out, and usually it's either dark and dark. You come in there or come in or wherever it may be. It's always dark out. And he came outside and he was yelling my name, and I waved at him, and he ran back inside. Parker came and sat down, and I was like, I don't remember him growing up. And Parker's like, wow, we're making on a lot, I mean, shoot, you're talking almost 100,000 miles a year. And I know that sounds crazy, but that's real life, driving that much.
I'll tell you, it didn't hit me either till this year. Like, this year is, of course, all the COVID stuff going on. Mm-hmm. We're stuck at home. Like, I was stuck in my shop. Like, the cops were here twice, trying to figure out if we were essential or not. Like, so I've been home a lot this year. Most of our truck shows have been canceled. Yeah. And it wasn't until this year that I was literally forced to be home.
Yeah.
And my oldest is 10.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there one night watching a movie with her, and her and I are talking about life. And I'm like,
where did this come from?
Yeah, well, like, she's just grown up so fast.
Yeah, my boys are 8 and 10. And I hadn't been to one of my kids' birthdays in probably 4 years.
Oh, dude,
because it's right in the springtime.
We've scheduled birthdays, like my daughter, April 29th.
Yeah.
We've literally scheduled her birthday around truck shows.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, Daddy's got to be gone this weekend, so we're going to have to do it that weekend. It's like, I never really thought about it because we're building a business.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, you don't. You get so consumed with it. And that's one thing about, I mean, I know this thing kind of went to being a new polisher, but this conversation, but that's one thing that people don't understand is how much of your life polishing can consume.
Oh yeah, and if you let it, it'll take it all.
It'll take everything from you if you let it. And I know personally some polishers that let it take their whole life.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, and
it felt like they had to work 24 hours a day.
And
we've talked about this a number of times.
Yeah,
a lot of times it leads into drugs and all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah.
And I hate it for our industry.
It sucks because we already have an industry. We try to fight to make it a cleaner industry
100%.
and keep drugs away from it.
And there are a lot of great businessmen out there.
Yeah, there is.
I've definitely noticed in the last 6 years there's been more. I don't want to call them professional polishers because I feel like they're all professional at some level. I just don't know what to call the ones that are straight and narrow, not doing drugs and doing it right, paying their taxes, doing everything, getting the insurance so they're covered.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to call those ones other than business polishers.
Yep.
You know, like they're doing it the way they should do it. And in the last 6 years, there's been a lot more of that. But it's rough. It can consume you. You get that, I don't want to call it greed, but you kind of get that money hungry, and you see how much you could make. I could just stay up an extra couple hours.
Shit, if we could just stay up the whole night and travel back home to get to another job, or just not fall asleep, and then
there's no shortage of work
ever. And that's why I tell everybody: if you can't find a job, go buy a grinder, a sander, whatever. Call me or Evan or whoever, and I can guarantee.
Watch a bunch of YouTube videos.
Watch YouTube. Yeah, don't even
you
have
can make an extra couple $100 at least a week.
Easy.
One truck a week.
Easy.
One truck a week.
And it's unreal. It never ends. And if you want to be mobile, it will never end.
No.
I mean, and that's the thing. The glory of this job too is I got family down in Alabama, and I need to get down there and see them.
If you want to go and spend a month down there with your family,
I just make a phone. Make a phone call, take my stuff with me, and my whole entire. I just worked for maybe 3-4 days, and my whole time down there. You know, if I was down there for a week and I worked for 3 of it, even if I stayed a week and a half, I could still get a whole week for free, or at least paid for. And I wasn't out anything really for the most part. Yeah. I know it sucks working on vacation, but
but you know how many times I've done it? Like I took my parents to Hawaii for their 40th wedding anniversary, and while I was there, I met a polisher, and we went and did some work while I was there. Like it worked out pretty cool.
And that's another thing is if you wanted to travel the world, you could even do it. We talked to some guys that were migrant workers from South Africa. Yeah. And they're like, come back with us. We can get you work and this and that. And they were serious. I mean, we could have done that, and we didn't. I talked to a polisher out of South America. I can't remember exactly where he's at. Down in South America somewhere, but he's always invited me down there too, and I'd be like, man, that's just too much. Like, if you would ask me like 3 years ago, I'd have been like, we're going to South America. That's so cool. I mean, it'd be awesome to meet him and be able to say that, but once you start getting so busy, at home, traveling out of the country would be that's a whole.
Well, back at it, like that's one thing I really think new polishers, young polishers should realize is that if you're comparing yourself to the guys that have been in it for 20 to 30 years, don't let it burn you out. Like, they've got 20 to 30 years of experience under their belt that you're not going to get there tomorrow. Like, no matter how many YouTube videos you watch, yes, that stuff helps, but it doesn't just give you that experience. Like, you have to do it.
And that's an everyday thing, but people, and I'm sure people that have came and trained with you, and even people we've trained, which is not very many, hardly any.
Yeah, but you've trained some pretty good ones.
Yeah, well, but we try to explain to them too, and it's hard for people to understand. I'll teach you everything we know, but you have to
do it.
Yeah, and you have to do it repetitively. Yep. I mean, we do this every day, all the time. And for those besides this COVID year, like you said, this is the first time I've ever relaxed and been home, and really calmed down to see what I've really missed. But those first 4 years, it's every day. This is your life. This is it. This is what we did. There was nothing else in life. And that's bad to say. I mean, obviously we were there for our kids as much as we could and stuff like that. But
when I was home, I tried to always be home.
Exactly. But I mean, you want to talk about hanging out with your friends or going and doing things? No, we were polishing.
Yeah.
We were polishing, or we were figuring out different things to polish, or figuring out what we could polish, or and that's almost a mentality that
it's an addiction.
It is. It'll rope you in every time. You can't get away.
Every time you try to step back for a little bit, you're like, I miss it.
Yeah.
Like I went with my family down to Florida, and we were down there for like 10 days. Tammy's family. Mm-hmm. And the whole time I was there, I was like, I love these guys, but I can't wait to get home. Like, first thing I do every time I get home is I come to the shop. I miss the smells. Like, it's the first thing I do, no matter where I go on vacation. It's just, I don't know.
Well, and another thing that's tough is I love talking to people, obviously.
Yeah.
You can't shut me up. But it's so hard for me to have friends that aren't involved in trucking or polishing. Because when this is all you do, this is all you want to talk about. All you know. When I'm sitting here talking about, doing this or this show truck, or we're going here, we're going that, they're just like, nah, it's neat. I don't really even care. I don't even know what that is. I don't know what a 359 or a 370, any of that stuff is.
Yeah.
And it's tough to converse with people when this is your life, and that's why I think we all complain about the truck show season because it's so much stress and a lot of hours doing that. But at the same time, I think we're so surrounded by each other and that world.
Yeah.
I think that's what got me a little bit, and kind of, not saying depressed, but it was, I don't know, because no one around where I live really. It's not that
this year's been rough on me too.
Yeah, it's not that they don't care about what I do.
Like I've had a few of our show guys through the shop this year, but it's like nothing like being at a show.
No, it's nothing.
Because it just becomes, we call it truck show family.
Exactly.
But it's like you get around all those guys and it's everybody all at once and we're all just joking and having a good time with each other. This year's been the toughest for me. Like, it's just weird not seeing everybody all at once. So.
And even, I know this is dumb to say, even a little bit of the drama. You know what I mean? And it's not like I live for that, but I mean,
it has been nice this year with no drama.
But at the same time, it's weird not having that kind of stuff, and dealing with, what this person's doing or what this company's coming out with or whatever else, and the competitiveness in this industry is crazy. It's
everybody's gunning.
Yep, everybody's got to be better and doing something better, and but it's, it sucks dealing with it, but at the same time, I think it keeps us all going faster, and just wanting to do better and better instead of sitting back and not, wanting to.
If I had to sit behind a desk every day, I mean, we do for the podcast here, but if I had to do it every day, I think it would get old.
I would lose it. Yeah, I couldn't do it.
But that's probably the other side for me, is I like being out, I like doing things, and the polishing's really given me that avenue. It's.
Yeah, it's so nice in the aspect of, I don't know how to explain it. It's a very active work too. It keeps you going, and you can get fat doing it because you sit around a lot. But your upper body, you get a lot of workout cardio in that way for sure.
Oh yeah, it'll beat you up. That's for sure. 20 years in, and I'm still okay. I do a lot of stretching.
Yeah.
But I can tell you on days when I don't stretch.
Well, you and I were just talking about that.
Yeah, we were just talking about this.
When I started stretching more, because I was having such bad back pain and lower back pain, and started stretching more, and it was even my shoulders. That helped out a lot.
That's probably one thing that I should probably put into a YouTube video. I always kind of figured, like, everybody just figured you should stretch, but like, it's something that we don't really talk about, and I definitely see.
I think a lot of people too, because even people that have had regular factory jobs.
Yeah.
When you get there in the morning and doing stupid stretch, no one ever really does it. No one cares.
Yeah.
But I tell you, once you start doing a job, people that do physical work a lot, they will understand. Even if you think you look dumb, I don't even care.
Yeah.
I'm stretching because.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Laying in bed at night, and you're like, I'm just not gonna sleep because everything's tight. My back's tight. My legs are tight. It's not gonna be great.
Yeah. It hurts, and that's what I fought the longest is when you think you're invincible, like I did for a long time.
Yep.
You know, and everybody, all you guys, all the old veteran
Yeah.
guys, you need to wear a mask. You need to, you know, stretch. You need to do this, and it's like, jeez.
We haven't got you talking into a mask yet.
Well, you know, honestly though, we were doing really good.
You were for a while. I was proud of you.
Well, COVID hit, and then it just kind of. I guess I could have called you because you had. Send me 4 filters. You know what I mean? That was a bit of a deal. Like, just used to just going and buying filters or something if you needed them or whatever it may be. But and I think my deal got scratched up, so I threw mine aside.
You tried buffing it or something?
Yeah. Well, I buffed it out one time. I did the inside, and it has a film on it. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's like my magnifying glass to your eyeballs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I still got that one actually.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
So you guys are out in Nebraska.
Yes.
And have you always been in Nebraska, or was that just where you ended up, or?
You know, I was actually born in Alabama, Huntsville, and we moved when I was 2. My mother was from Nebraska and moved back to Nebraska, and yeah, pretty much my whole life.
And you live close to your mom? Close relationship with your mom still?
Oh yes, yeah. My mom lives like 4 blocks away from me.
I know you're always telling me that.
Yeah, she actually lived with me for a while. Well, that's a whole different deal. Your old lady and your mom just don't get along very well. Even if you got a big house and they can separate, it still doesn't work.
Yeah, I would imagine not.
Yeah, no, we really enjoy where we live. That's where I met Parker. You know, 3 years ago.
You guys are in a cool area there.
Almost 4 years ago, actually.
I got to come out and see your place, and
it's very secluded, which is nice.
You guys are in the middle of nowhere. It's beautiful out there, though.
Yeah, it's great for. It'd be tough for someone that ever lived in a city to move out there. Because it's one of those deals where you're an hour away from Walmart. But I mean, we have all the essential stuff. We got a Dollar General and a Casey's. That's crazy. We got those on the moon, but no, we got everything we kind of need. It's frustrating in a sense though, because I really want a central location where I can maybe slow down a little bit, so we're not traveling all over the world doing this.
I feel like everybody's got that dream of having a shop.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of people understand that, like, getting a shop in your early years, like.
I'm glad I didn't really, and I really wanted one because that would have been a lot of overhead.
A lot of overhead. It can vary you, and it can squash a company before it ever gets a chance to get a run at it. And I always tell everybody, especially the new polishers that call with questions, I'm like, listen, if you're trying to get a shop first year, like it took me almost 15 years. Well, I think it did take me 15 years before I got my shop. And even then, my first year in my shop here was tough. And I didn't pay a lot for this place. Like, I just wasn't sure how I was going to keep the lights on sometimes in the winter when it got slow. I was like, I still have a mortgage to pay every week.
Exactly. Car payments, cell phone bills, everything, and then you add another $500 on top of that, and you think you justify it in your head in the beginning. You're like, phew, I can do that. 2 trucks, no big deal. We run 2 trucks a year.
But we winter hits, mobile too.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and that's my biggest worry. Even doing a shop now,
getting guys to transition from mobile to shop.
Exactly, because we've got them so trained and they love it. The fact that we come to them. And they don't have to worry about anything, and they don't have to worry about getting a truck there or getting it back home or sitting outside.
That was probably the hardest thing for us this year with COVID, with the tight restrictions on the detailers, is here I wasn't allowed to go mobile at all. So some of my guys, even my local guys that have fleets that we used to go and do 4, 5, 6 trucks a day at, they were mad because they couldn't get 4 or 5 or 6 trucks here in a day to make it feasible to still let us do what we were doing. It just wasn't going to work to send that many drivers over here.
Yeah, I'm almost glad. We were talking last year about getting a shop, Parker and I, and I'm almost glad I didn't.
It would have been the worst time in the world.
Exactly, that would have been the worst. I mean, if we could have made it through now, we would have been okay. This is worse than wintertime,
I feel like anybody that survives this year
is going to
come out that much stronger.
Yeah.
Like, dot your I's, cross your T's this year, and it's going to make you that much better for next year. I really feel like that's definitely going to be the best.
I tell you, this year will teach you how to save your money a lot more than any other.
For sure.
And you're used to making big
don't
money.
Don't waste product.
Exactly.
And cut the fat as much as you can.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's even Parker and I, instead of maybe wasting a wheel. Well, use it longer than you can, this year, just to make sure that.
Well, I save all my burnt up ones for diamond plate and step treads and stuff.
Before, shoot, I got a new wheel on. I don't care. I'll just
Yeah.
burn through it on Diamond Tread or whatever.
Yep.
You know, no big deal. And now it's like, yeah, you save those wheels
Yep.
and you go grab one.
You don't realize how much that stuff adds up. I mean, the first year I showed you that we melt down Rouge, it's like, you wouldn't think about it, but all those little nubs that we have at the end, like I save a year, and I do it in winter because we're slower anyways, and we just sit and melt Rouge for 2 days and re-pour it into molds. And it's like, I think last year when we did it, it was 1 year's worth of nuggets, and we had brown, we had 400 or 500 pounds.
Yeah.
Green, we had 600 pounds. It was like,
Yeah.
that would have all just been thrown away. But now 500-600 pounds. I know
Exactly.
polishers that aren't using 500 or 600 pounds in a year.
No,
So
I know.
like, we added most polishers' year worth of compound back to our shelves that
Yeah.
most people are just chucking away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing, you know. And
I mean, you got to know how to properly melt it down so you're not
Yeah.
wrecking it.
yeah,
But at the same time, that's a ton of compound.
I really should, because we have bags and totes full of Rouge that we need to melt down. But we save every bit of it,
Yeah.
even every little chunk we pick
It adds up.
It really does, you
It
know.
really adds up.
And especially on color, because it always seems like for some reason you always make sure you have enough cutting. With color, when it comes, like, gosh dang it, we had another bar. I don't know why we're low.
Because you don't use as much of it.
Yeah, and you don't.
So it's one of those out of sight, out of mind kind of things,
I
I'm pretty
agree.
sure.
I agree.
So it's like, you're not really thinking about it, and then all of a sudden you're like, uh-oh, I'm out.
Yeah, well, and like you said, and it goes so far. So one
Yeah.
bar lasts you a heck of a lot longer than
Yeah.
brown bar, and you're like, oh yeah, well, I think we'll be all right. Well, then all of a sudden you're about out,
Yeah.
and then you're pulling those little chunks that you're glad you saved
Yeah.
because you're using them now.
Yeah.
To hoping to get you through,
Yeah.
and that's one thing. I hope with you launching the Evans product now, it can get out to more stores.
Yeah.
That's one thing that's, I think, discouraging in a sense too, especially to a lot of these polishers that,
Most people just buy what's easy and convenient
Yeah.
to get a hold of.
and they don't. Well, and also too, I think a lot of polishers, they don't know how to gauge on what they have.
So that
You know-
goes back to the whole business side for me. Like, most other polishers don't keep an inventory.
Exactly.
Like, they're not buying 50 buffs at a time.
Mhm.
And I was lucky. Like, I figured that game out early. So, like, I want to say I was maybe 6 or 8 years into business, and I figured out that I needed to start buying in bulk because I ran out one time,
yes.
and the place where I was buying it from couldn't get them for me. And I had to cancel a job because I couldn't get product. And I was like, I never want to be in that position again. And I know a lot of polishers, since we sell product now, I get polishers call me all the time. They're like, I need you to overnight it because I need it tomorrow.
And what sucks about that, I've been on that side. It doesn't matter. So you're paying $200
It costs
for shipping.
$200 to ship it.
ship it, and it might not get there for 3 days with the overnighting sometimes
And that
too.
$200 comes out of your bottom line.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
you've got nowhere else to roll it into. It has to come out of your bottom line. Where if you'd have just shipped that to begin with,
It would have saved you
it
all
would have
that.
cost you
Yeah.
$40.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you added $160 to your bottom line, and you screw that up 10 times a year. That's an extra $1,600. Like, that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot.
Yeah, and that extra money you're spending too is not a guarantee it's going to be there overnight sometimes, especially with the COVID stuff.
Oh,
That's the worst.
now it's the worst,
Or and it always seems like crazy things like that happen around holidays for us.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
we try to get stuff overnighted, and then it's like 3 days later, and it's like, oh my god, this is terrible.
Yeah, are we
like-
going to get it in time?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, it's
you
just
know, lucky
miserable.
for us now, I don't really put us in that position ever because we keep track of everything very closely now.
Sure.
But still, sometimes, there are times that you use more than you thought you were going to use
Yep.
at a job.
Yeah,
And
we've
you're
all
like,
been there.
you're getting-
Actually, I still did it this year. I was out at STS's building, and we were polishing his dump trailer. I thought I had enough compound, and we got done with the first day, and I was like, oh boy,
Yeah, this ain't good.
we're not going to make it through the second day. I called Ellen. I'm like, I need you to overnight it right now. She overnighted it. It didn't make it there.
Mm-hmm.
As we were packing up, the stuff showed up as we were packing up. And I was like, thank God we had enough.
Yeah.
Like, we just skipped through with enough.
But that sucks too because that costs you money.
Oh, yeah.
You know that you did need to spend and it's you're never gonna know perfectly. You can sit and do this. You've been doing this for 5 years. You've been doing it forever.
20.
For
20 this
dirt
year.
was new then, but anyways, but you still can't ever 100% gauge exactly what you're gonna need.
I was only going for the one job. I thought I had enough.
But you can get a really good idea. But still, I mean, it's because people ask that. I know I've heard phone calls with you asking. Well, guy today asked, how many bucks do I need?
Yep.
I don't really. You should only really maybe need one or two. But you never know.
I don't know how you're going to use it. I don't know if you're going to hit a bunch of holes, if you're going to take it across the top of tread plate. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I always hate answering that question when people call. They're like, how much am I going to need? I'm like, you should call Stevie Wonder and have him tell you what color his shirt is.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't know.
It's a tough one because you don't know exactly. Like I said, you can gauge it for doing it over years.
I mean, I have a ballpark.
Yeah, and that's when we go to do big jobs. Obviously, I don't carry all my inventory with me, but I know we're roughly going to do 10, 15 trucks. I know what should be able to do 10, 15 trucks, especially trucks that we've done past time. I should know what it should take, but even then, sometimes when it comes like sandpaper. That's another big one. That's hard to gauge because you might think it's all right, and then
sometimes
you get there.
You get into a job and it just beats you up.
Yeah, and then and even the next year you're like, well, it should be even better. I shouldn't need that much sandpaper, and you hadn't seen the trucks, so you're just going down there thinking.
Come to find out they've been sandblasted.
Yeah, they're terrible, and you're like, oh my god, we're gonna have to sand
starting all over
every week, everything's got to be sanded again, and so you try to keep plenty in there, but. I just get worried being on the road a lot in case we get broken into. I don't want freaking everything stolen.
Decimated, we've seen that quite a few times at shows where people have gotten their buffers and everything's stolen out of a parking lot. It's like
Kansas franchise.
Yeah, we were down in Dallas, and they were at the hotel and got it all stolen out of LA at the hotel. Like,
No. It wasn't at the hotel. They were at the event center.
Really?
In the parking garage during the day is when that happened.
That's where it was? I thought it was at the hotel.
Hammett got robbed at the hotel.
Oh, that's right.
5-star hotel. He had his truck valet parked.
That's right.
Yep. You can't tell me it wasn't an inside job. Yeah.
Somebody knew what was up.
Yeah. That was, being on the road, you got to look at that stuff too. So a lot of these guys, you want to go on the road and that's a whole different episode right there. Parker and I could have a whole episode of
road stories.
Just the hotels.
You guys stay in some of them.
I'm the biggest Jew in the world when it comes to that.
No,
you guys like staying in nice places, and I'm like,
Jew, you're just tight.
Well, if I could save $20, we'll stay in this place. So that's what we do.
See, me, it's not that I don't want to stay in those places. It's just I really don't want to stay in those places.
I'll tell you this right now. You don't.
I want to make sure
I stay in those places, and I'll tell you. Parker and I should do a whole podcast videos of just the hotels.
The hotels you've stayed in.
And like film them while we're there and the things we see and the craziness.
I keep saying, like, you should start a YouTube channel on the polisher's life.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are living the most interesting polisher's life I know.
Well, yeah, you try to do everything as cheap as possible on the road.
Because it hurts your bottom dollar.
It does. It
but
does.
for me, I don't want to sleep in a place where I'm not sure I'm going to live through the night.
Yeah.
Like,
or go to a place where you go up to the front desk and ask for another pillow, and they just tell you to take your comforter and roll it up for an extra pillow. I was like, that's an easy. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Thanks for letting me walk a half mile up here for you to tell me that. And at the same time, the same place, just to give you a little taste of it.
You had to rent the microwave?
No, that's a different one. Same state though. Different. Same state, different city. But anyways, we watched a guy in his car, definitely under influence of something, dismantle his whole entire dash and center console to find something we don't know what. We watched it though. We sat and watched them the whole time.
See, like, I don't want to sleep in a place like that. Like, if I don't know where that guy's going when he's done.
Or another one too. This same state as well. We're gonna have to have a whole episode on this. So this is a good one. We stay in one where there's women that do things for you.
Yeah.
And the lady that
most cheap hotels do.
Yes, and. Most of the time when they see us, they know. We just ignore them. They don't mess with us. We go in a room.
Yeah.
And not trying to die that way. But the coolest part of it is the lady that runs that operation walking around. She was super. It was like out of a movie. Stuff we'd never seen before. That's a whole different story. That was crazy. God dang, I could just go for days. I just thinking, and most of it's in one state. Just the craziness that you see at the hotels down there is nuts, and the people you run into. And
for me, it's the opposite. Like I always try to stay in nicer places because I don't want to end up in those situations. The problem is we come in filthy.
Yeah.
I mean, we're black.
Yeah.
So the places I walk into, they're like, I don't know if I want to rent to you for the night. Like, and it sucks because some of the places that are just okay with it are the places that like you're staying in. And
we'll see, like for you,
some weird conversations. So I always try to go in while I'm clean, get the room, so that when I come back, they can't refuse you.
Exactly.
And then they're like,
Yeah, you know, we always try to shower. If we're going to stay in a nice place, we have to. We always try to wash our faces off before we get there because you kind of fight that in a sense.
Yep.
And that's another thing people should know if you're going to go on the road. If you're going to stay in nicer places, I'll tell you right now, and Evan's the one that kind of put me onto this, make sure you bring cleaning supplies so you can clean your tub
shower, because otherwise they will charge you.
Yeah, they will. And
we've learned that lesson the hard way a number of times.
Yeah, and that's why we stay at the places we do, because you pay them cash and
they don't
care.
That's not the worst thing they've seen in those rooms.
Shower's black. Yeah, okay. There's not a body in there. You know.
That's so terrible. But it's probably true.
Extremely true. It's extremely true.
So usually this part of the show, I'll ask you what products you're using. I don't want to go down that road because we already know what you're using.
Well, you hope I'm using.
No, I'm hoping.
No, exactly what we're using. You know, going to that, to prove that point, which it doesn't need to be proven, but we missed out on a few days of work because of this COVID deal. Because remember, I tried placing an order, and I didn't know that the factories had all shut down.
It was terrible. We've been fighting issues getting products in all year. I mean, some of the manufacturers that are making our stuff, they've had cases of COVID. Some of them had to close down for 14 days at a time. And it's really putting us in a hard spot sometimes. Because, like, I told Ellen, like, we've had Green Rouge on back order for, like, 3 weeks. And I ordered it 2 months ago. And it's like, they were just getting ready to ship it out. They had a case of COVID. They had to shut down for 14 days. They had to start over. Got ready to ship out. Another case of COVID. Had to shut down for another 14 days. So now, it's like, they haven't pushed us back in the line. It's just, they haven't been able to be open.
Yeah.
So when it does finally ship in, we're going to be stocked full again. So I said, listen, we're just going to keep selling. Tell everybody it's on back order. As soon as it comes in that day, she's going to pack everything up and ship it out. Like, that's going to be a terrible packing day for her. Like,
yeah. I feel bad for the UPS guy.
Yeah, he's not going to love life.
4 million packages to carry out.
2,000 pounds of compound.
Yeah, exactly.
2 pounds at a time.
Yeah, that was tough for us, you know. And a lot of guys are like, why don't you run down to here or there or whatever, and honestly, we could go down this road too on a product deal.
I can polish with anything.
Yeah, we can. I just don't like it. How we're set up and what we do, and especially what you've came out with, is formulated around your process, and it works perfectly. I'm not going to sit and bash on anybody's product, but for what we do, it works for us. Yeah. We've tried we have, you know, and you and I talked about it when we were down at one of our big customers. We tried several different products.
That was awesome. You guys took some cool videos.
Yeah, that we've never done before, and I'm not going to say they didn't work. They just didn't work how what we want. Yeah, the level and what we want to do, you know, and our honest opinion was what we use is still the best for how we use it and what we do, and for what we feel is comfortable to give, and not saying any just that's how we feel, you know.
I feel like once you've gotten the polishing knowledge and figured out how to do it, you could polish with anything. But to get the results in a timely manner at the level that you want, that's when product finally comes into play. Like new polishers, I tell them, use whatever product you're comfortable with. Once you get the hang of it and you want to start leveling yourself up, spend a little extra money, get a better product. I shouldn't say better product because it's not necessarily that. It's stuff. It is better product. Yeah, it's probably the best way to say it, I guess. Yeah. I'm not hating on anybody because everybody's product works on some level, but to get faster, you have to get a compound that is tailored for your industry. If you're using, let's just say, Triple E on stainless, because that's what your manufacturer is telling you to use, it's not going to work as well as a stainless bar.
Exactly.
I mean, so use the products that you should be using to get the job done because you'll get it done quicker You'll get it done easier with better results.
Yeah.
And the guys that are telling me they're doing 4 or 5 trucks in a day without good products, I don't believe it sometimes. Like it's.
We could be, but I'd love to see it, and not trying to
And see
match
the
on anyone.
results.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
There's no way we, and that's another thing is people don't understand this too. And we had to learn this as well. Obviously getting into this, is there's so many different mixtures of brown bar. People think there's just one brown bar.
Every company's brown's a little
There's
different.
hundreds of different recipes
Yeah.
on how to make that and
Yeah.
how to tweak it and how to make it better and also too is so a brown bar you buy from your truck stop is going to be different than a brown bar that you sell or someone else sells, and trying to explain that to people, especially no one that's
A brown's a
truckers.
brown.
Yeah, exactly. What you can go buy wheels that I see them at such a. Okay, first of all, that's a whole different wheel, buddy, and yeah, we'll do it. It's not going to look as good, and I'm going to have to charge you more. You know what I mean?
It's going to take me more time.
Yeah, it's going to take me more time. The product's probably going to cost me more because it's marked up at a freaking truck stop. So
full retail.
yeah, and it's not going to look as good for how we do it.
Yeah.
I don't. Maybe if I sat and worked with those wheels for 5 years, I could figure them out. I don't know.
And if the fabric wears out faster, now it's costing me more money. So all that stuff trickles down. I mean, like I said, it all goes back to that bottom line at some point in time.
Yeah, and that's what you got to watch the most because you might think you're just making money hand over fist because it's just
you see that cash coming in every day.
Constant money flowing in,
Yep.
and you're busy, and then at the end of the year you're like, holy cow, I spent.
Where is it all?
Yeah, well, I spent a lot of money I didn't realize, because you're just, I can make $1,000 more or whatever it may be, and once you get serious with it and you want to actually make a career out of it, you gotta really watch what you do.
I said I've seen so many polishers over the years. A lot of big guys do awesome things, and I don't think I've ever seen one retire.
Yeah.
I mean, because everybody's chasing that money tomorrow.
Yeah.
And nobody's really looking at that money 20, 30 years from now. I've been in it 20 years, and I can't retire tomorrow. I mean, I wish I could. It'd be great. But I got another 20 years.
And you've done things extremely well for yourself. You know what I mean? And
yeah, we're doing all right.
But I mean, obviously, it didn't happen overnight. Too.
No.
People need to realize that when they watch your video.
But
we kind of touched on that before. Is
15 years
time.
full time this year. So I mean, it took 15 years of
every day
busting it to get here. Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just.
So the most interesting question, and I'll segue into this because we're kind of there already, but what's been the highlight of your 5-year career so far? Like what was the peak, or like the coolest moment, or greatest thing you've worked on? Like what was
we could
that?
have a whole segment of this. After I got involved with Evans, I mean, what do you want, like craziest thing, or do you want like cool? I mean, crazy and cool are two different things.
What's the one moment you couldn't replace in the last 5 years? Like, if somebody came to you and was like, I'm gonna take everything away, but I'll let you keep one memory.
That's impossible. We've had too many, all the different things we got to do. I mean,
We've had a lot of fun.
we have. We've, got the people we've got to meet. It's insanity on the amount of even famous people that are involved in trucking that people don't even realize, and or their families are involved, and then you're closer to them, and just that part of it is cool. That's a tough one, man. I know. I can sit here. That's what I'm saying. That's a whole segment of itself. I can just sit and tell stories about all the cool things and the people we've got to meet.
Well, then just toss me one. We'll see where it goes.
I don't even know.
So I will say that I feel like our biggest highlight together was definitely Tulsa, because it really solidified our friendship. I mean, you and I had talked.
I used to call you every day.
Literally, there was times where I didn't even want to answer my phone. I'll be honest with you, and I know you knew that. You called me 3 or 4 times in a row sometimes.
I shouldn't even tell the story because people tried pulling the same shenanigans I did.
So you can't see it.
So I hear about this guy. He's from Oklahoma. He has this hand polish. He's famous. He does all these show trucks. well, I'd get on Instagram or Facebook, wherever. Instagram, I think.
Instagram, I think it was, yeah.
Figure out who this guy was, and I was like, first of all, he's from Wisconsin. I'm hearing this all from another party, and so I see what he's doing, and I go, I want to do that. So the only way to figure out how to do that is call the person doing it, I guess.
And I answer my call.
Yeah,
I try to as much as possible.
But I called you, and I left you a voicemail because I think you're real busy doing something. I can't remember what it was. It was obviously during the summer, so it had been at a peak time, and it was during the day, like
I think I was working on a dump trailer.
1 or 2 in the afternoon. So it was like right after lunch, or something. I can't remember, but you called me right away back, and I started asking you questions like crazy. Not really about the show stuff at first. I think it was just more or less using products.
It was just polishing your product in general. Yeah.
And he kept telling me to do his training course. Well, he'd never met me, so he wouldn't know this part of me is I don't pay for things like that. And I'll just call you every single day until I just get all the information. So that's what I did. Well,
so in a long roundabout way.
Yeah. Well, and long story short is, and I always tell everybody, like, how'd you meet Evan? And I go, honestly, we talked for almost a year and never met. Something like, not quite a year, maybe. It was months, though.
I want to say it was like 8 months.
Yeah.
9 months, maybe.
And it got to the point that I called you so much that we almost just became personal on the phone and not even really about polishing. We just, it just wasn't one of those deals.
We're just checking on each other's sometimes.
I'm so consistent about things, But no, I agree. I'm not memorable moment. Thinking of all the crazy, cool, wild things we did. That was the beginning of it.
It kind of leads to how tight you are. Like, you wanted the training course, but I was like, I just don't do it for free because it's an inconvenience here at the shop. I mean, you've done some training now.
Yeah.
And you understand that, like, me shutting my shop down for a day to train somebody or take them along to a job site and train them really messes your day and your flow up. It's like, to do it right, it really messes it up. So then you're like, well, can we work something out? And I'm like, well,
that's when then
you come to a show with me and I just won't pay you a whole lot.
Yeah, that's what it was. I don't think you told me that part. You said come to the show.
No, I offered you, what was it, $125 a day?
$100
a
No,
day.
it's like, yeah, we'll be there.
I was like, I'll give you $100 a day.
We didn't know we were going to do 21 trucks in 3 days.
We did.
Yeah, that was in trailers too. I don't even remember how many trailers.
You got 3 days worth of like intense, hardcore training.
And working on giant show trucks we'd never seen before,
and not just show trucks, but we were working on a lot of work trucks.
Well, we were too, but I mean, to even get to work on those show trucks, that was work to us.
We got 21 trucks worth of knowledge in 3 days.
Yeah, that was pretty wild.
And that was
This is a guy that was doing a truck every 2 days.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You were doing a truck every 2 days, and you went from 1 every 2 days to 21 in 3
days. Yeah, we didn't think it could be possible.
And we weren't just doing like little trucks either. No. Like Kenny Fisher, we did his
frame rails.
His frame rails on his trailer.
Backside of his boxes, I think, too.
I was laying underneath his truck, just grinding away at the backside of his truck. Parker was in there. Like, we were just going nuts on these things.
Yeah, that was when we got a taste of the show live. And then that's
you guys ended up getting to be on the Shell Rotella show with me that year.
Well, and just to show, we were on TV. We got on Tony Justice's tour bus. That was crazy because we gave his bus driver a ride. Yeah. And then of course me being me, I was like, hey, can we get on there? He's like, yeah. I don't think he's supposed to let us, but we just gave him a ride. So.
It was a cool life experience.
It was, and that was a really.
And tornadoes that trip.
Oh shoot, yeah, and then they had to put all the trucks in the building. Yeah. Yeah, that was a crazy deal, and all the guys from East Coast freaking out because they'd never seen a tornado, and I kept telling them it was gonna be fine.
So for me, that was the highlight of us. Like.
Yeah, it was, and I was, thinking of all, like I said, going back to these crazy experience. I want to go back to training real quick because this is still in my head. When you're talking about how it's kind of an inconvenience. And I think people, when they call to ask on how much it costs, it kind of blows them away a little bit.
Yeah, because they're like $500 is a lot.
That's a lot a day. But you don't realize I can make more than that and not show some.
I can make $1,000 a day.
Or I can make $500 a day not getting anything done.
And I can't do anything else.
No.
And I'll be honest with you, there's some people that have come through and trained where we've gone through $100 in product that day. Like sandpaper, buffs, compound. Like, I only made $400 that day, Plus, I wasn't able to be on my phone. I wasn't able to do business as usual.
Yep.
So it's like I can make $1,000 a day if I don't have somebody here. So it's like, if I'm training you, yes, $500 is a lot, but most people don't understand. Like, I shut my shop down for most of the polishers that I train. If you're new, like, I don't do anything else other than you're here or working.
Yeah.
I've had some experienced polishers come through that are like, we want to work on customers' trucks, and it's like, okay,
That's a little bit better.
we'll make that work.
Yeah.
But at least then we're still making some money. But even then, I can't do $1,000 worth of work and teach somebody properly. Like, I can
even if they
get
know
one
what-
truck a day
yeah.
done if I'm training somebody.
Even if they know the gist of it, it's not up to your standards on what you want done,
No.
you know? So you gotta check over the work, you gotta make sure everything's
And even
good
then, they
enough.
go home for the day and I'm going to repolish it.
Yeah,
Like, I want my technique and my pattern on it.
yeah. Yeah, but now skipping back to when we met down in Tulsa, I mean, that's where it all started.
You guys got a crash course at the cost of $100 a day.
Yeah, it was wild. That was crazy. The first time I ever went to casino,
Yeah.
everything. I mean, we had a crazy time down there.
I took care of you guys. I wanted you guys to have a good time
We
because I
did.
felt bad because I knew only paying you guys $100 a day wasn't great.
I had a $25 hamburger while we were there.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of
I
fun.
take good care of everybody when I take
Yeah.
everybody to shows. Like, I try to buy their meals. I put
Yeah.
everybody in
No,
a
we
nice
had-
hotel
Yeah,
or
I mean,
Airbnb.
you paid for our fuel too, and you paid for our
Yeah.
hotel. You paid for all our meals.
Yep.
You know, we went and had fun casino. We had got no sleep whatsoever.
Literally, that was team no sleep.
No.
It was 3
That was-
days.
that
I
was
think we
the-
slept, 5 hours in 3 days?
Maybe. We got like no sleep the whole time we were there.
That was brutal.
And honest to God, we say like that was a bit. We do that every show, obviously. But, you know, and honestly, that wasn't even the worst show. I think the worst show we ever did was Texas. It was like 30.
Last year?
You were up longer than us. We were up like 30 some hours, and you were up like 40.
You guys were 36, I was
yeah,
44.
Yeah, whatever it was.
44 hours no sleep.
Straight working too. It wasn't like sitting around BSing.
My last 6 hours was schmoozing. Like, I was hanging out with people and they wanted to take us out to dinner, and it was like, all right, well, I haven't slept for 38 hours, and they're like, I don't know, it'd be no big deal. Well, then I ended up out with those guys for 6 hours, and it was like, oh my God, I was dead.
Yeah.
You passed out in the chair at the show.
I did. Yeah.
Took like a
and
4 hour
actually,
nap.
you know, the craziest thing is going a little bit of memories. I could have been on television if I wouldn't have been halfway asleep with the Ice Road Trucker people.
Yeah.
They invited me to come on TV with them. They were doing a little interview, and they're
Yep.
like, hey, you want to be on TV? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm asleep. So, yeah, I tell you, that's how tired I was. I could have been on national television.
That was the
But
roughest,
I was so tired.
That was probably the roughest trip of my career, just because we were pushing so hard to make sure that we got our guys in the
Yes.
position they were in.
And some of them were so far behind with the motor blowing and all that stuff, you know, and
oh yeah,
that was terrible.
Tim's truck was just,
It was bad.
that thing was covered in oil. Like, I felt
Bad.
terrible because, like,
bet
I
we-
didn't think it needed that level of work.
I bet we wasted hundreds of rags on that thing trying to wipe it down.
Oh yeah,
Easy.
I saw you guys chucking hundreds.
Yeah, just a mountain of rags.
But even then, I mean, we still got, what, 4 best of shows, 5 second places, 4 third places. I don't think anybody didn't place that we did.
Everybody did very well.
So it's like, we reaped the reward.
Yeah,
But at the same time, like, was it worth staying up 44 hours?
I don't know. That's a tough one. Yeah, probably. We'd probably do it again.
No, listen, I'm sure we will.
Yeah, as I say, if
not
Dallas
even
was
a
this
question.
year, we would already be doing that dumb stuff again.
Yeah.
We always say we're not gonna, but we always do.
Yeah, it goes back to that addiction.
It does.
Metal polishing just sucks you in. And when you're competing at the top level, and it's like you're putting stuff out year after year after year.
And it helps too is the truckers are so competitive with it too. They love it. It's in their system. So you're just as jacked as they are. You know what I mean? And you can feel fulfilled because you helped get it somewhat there too. You know, and not saying we're the reason they won, but you know you.
No, listen, these guys sink hundreds of thousands of dollars into these trucks, and it's like
and you got
we're the cufflinks on a suit, you know, or we're the tie on a suit, you know. It's like we're that little sliver that just makes everything flow together, you know. If your polishing's not right, that's one of the main things that gets seen, you know.
And just being clean in general, you know, we do a lot of detailing too.
Yeah.
A lot of the white glove shows people don't understand
the level
the
that the
level
white glove goes to.
You know, to give people that don't know, they pull your seatbelt out, and if you have dirt on your seatbelt,
on the end of your seatbelt,
they'll pull
drag it all the
your
way out,
seatbelt
yeah.
out. You know, I mean, that's how bad it is. If they can reach an arm in there and touch dirt,
Yeah.
you're getting
The
docked.
tiebreaker stuff gets crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to give that away because I don't want people to know what some of these tiebreakers are. But like, we take care of that.
Yeah.
Like, we pull stuff apart that most people don't because I know if it comes down to a tie.
The dumbest things that should never be done for no reason.
But if it comes down to a tie, I want to make sure my guys have that upper leg. You know, like that's the level that we've gotten to. Like,
and that's what you have to be. If you want to do the things that we get to do, you have to do that. And
Dallas last year, in this 44-hour team no sleep, like we had two guys in the same class, and the judges went back and forth from one truck to the other, trying to find something wrong to decide 1 and 2. Like our two guys were in first and second place. One was going to get best of show, one wasn't, and it's like, okay, now it's both our trucks.
Yeah.
Where do they decide?
Like,
because we knew they were ready.
Yeah.
We knew they were on point. We knew they were clean. We knew all the spots that the judges traditionally look for were clean and right. How do you decide that? You know? And eventually they just found something. And it was, what do you do?
And
You're happy, but you're sad at the same time.
It's such a tough call, and it's so hard, you know, to make those decisions because
I try not to do two in the same class because I don't ever want to have that 1-2 situation.
somebody's gonna be sad. And it sucks because you want to be sad with them, and you're like, man, you know, maybe this next year or something. You know what I mean? Just different ideas.
But even then, like, for us, it's still a business. Like, if I go to the show, there's only 5 classes. If I do 5 trucks, it's like, all right, it cost me $14,000 to be here this week. How do I make $14,000 out of 5 trucks? I can't charge each one of them $3,000 to make $15,000 so that I make a profit.
People don't understand that either.
It's tough.
You know, some people don't understand that it costs money to even be on the lot to polish there. People don't understand that.
Shell Rotel.
Yeah.
They used to sell the lot.
Yeah.
And I had to pay $15,000 just to have the lot one year. Like, it sucked because we had other polishers that were mad at us, and it was like, I'm sorry, but I had to pay $15,000 to be here.
Yeah.
Like, because that's the rules. That's how they do it. They sell the lot so that there isn't that extra drama at the lot. And it's like, I felt bad, but what do you do? Like, I paid $15,000 if you just get to come in for free. That's not fair either.
No, it's not. And there's so much more to that world that people don't see or understand or know, and they just see things that are said on social media, and they don't know the whole story. You know, and that's one thing about Evans. I will say, I know this is way off topic. That's one thing that kind of drives me nuts a little bit is I hear stories about us. It's crazy because once you're up at that point, you hear stories about yourselves.
Sometimes I wish those stories were true.
Exactly, and you're like, that's not even okay.
I wish it was real.
I wish that happened, but that's not even remotely true. We weren't even there, you know. I mean, or we were there, but we weren't even at that point, or where whatever it may be.
I love when I hear the show is rigged.
Oh Jesus!
Like, I love it because like, if you only knew, like.
Well, you know, you hear so many stories about on you know, judges being friends or paid or what. You know, it doesn't. I hate saying it doesn't happen. It
happens. All the shows.
Well, I mean, it can happen, but I honestly think that the shows that we're involved in, the ones that we mostly go to. I'm not knocking on any small shows. I love small shows. I really enjoy them.
I do too.
They're great, but the big shows, you say big money, it's not big money shows for nobody. Actually, no. Nobody, everybody's
I don't think anybody comes out smelling like
everybody's
roses.
paying to be there, trust me. But in some way,
it's marketing.
Exactly. That's our excuse. But
I've scratched it up to marketing so many times.
Yeah. But those people are so close to each other as well too, where it's hard for them to really cheat each other. You know, I mean, things can happen, but it's
for the most part, the big shows are pretty unbiased. Like, there's a little bit of politics involved, but at the end of the day, like when it's white glove, it's white glove. somebody else is going to see you pull dirt out of there.
And the sad thing is who it mostly gets blamed to is back to polishers. So if you want to be a show polisher, there you go.
Yeah, good luck.
You're going to be one eating it.
Because if they shove their hand in somewhere and come out with a handful of grease, you're the one going to be eating crow real quick. You're the first person they knock on your door coming looking for you.
Yep. You know, and
when they win, it's great.
Yeah.
When they don't.
But that's the responsibility that we take, you know, and we understand that. You're knowing it, you know, and you take the blunt force of that mostly because when we're at those big shows with you, you know, I mean, you're the ringleader of that whole operation. You know, when Parker and I go to smaller shows, that's a little bit different. You know, there's not $500,000 trucks there, you know, competing for national.
It's still fun.
No, it is. But what I'm saying is the stakes aren't so high that it's crazy.
Yeah. Like even when we're going to Waupun this weekend.
Yeah.
And I had somebody message me the other day. They're like, "How crazy do I need to get this thing clean?" I'm like, "Listen, it is so loosely judged. Like most of these judges aren't getting out of their golf cart.
Yeah.
They're gonna pull up. They're gonna look like this, left, right. Looks good.
Good.
Have a good day."
Some people judging there don't even know how to judge. You know, and you have to hear that from some of the competitors.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to do it. Okay, well, it's for fun. Right?
Yeah.
Everybody gets a trophy. So
everybody just hang out, have a good time, drink a beer. It's gonna go away.
Yeah. So, well, this year you said they're not doing the whole everyone gets a trophy, right?
No, it's still gonna be that way this
Really?
year. Yeah, nothing's changed this year. I thought they were gonna change it up a little bit and try and update it a little bit, but it didn't happen. I don't know if it was just last minute or COVID stuff or what's going on, but really hasn't changed a lot. It's gonna be pretty well the same as it was every other year. So it's gonna be hectic during judging time.
It's gonna be fun.
But it's a good time.
It is. It's cool. I tell everybody about Waupun. If you want to go to a truck show, that's a good time. A lot of trucks, a lot of diversity in trucks too. It's not. I could never own that truck. You know what I mean? A lot of people always want to go to Louisville and see those trucks. They're cool. Don't get me wrong. It's the best of the world. You know what I mean? Maybe world, but
it's the best introduction to the show season.
Yeah, you know, and you get to see the best of the best. But at the same time, I enjoy seeing stuff that gets worked every day and actually gets used. And I'm not bashing the trucks that don't get used.
Yep.
I mean, I love them trucks too, and we're so blessed to get to work on those trucks.
Thompson's truck is one of the coolest trucks.
Yeah, it's awesome. But I also enjoy seeing a truck I know that's getting hammered down the road every single day and getting used how it's supposed to be used, and that's fun. And seeing all the diverse of what everyone's doing with. You know, you think of a typical show truck is a long hood truck, you know, and it's cool now seeing a lot of these slope nose.
A lot of the Kenworths.
Yeah.
We got Barry up on the wall here, right behind you there.
Yeah.
I love Barry's Kenworth. That thing just sits right on the ground, and it's.
Oh, and you got Ethan Young.
Young's Arrow. Yep.
Yeah, it's neat on seeing that, and it's different. You know, you. I think a lot of people all kind of gravitate towards a Peterbilt because that's just how it is, you know. That's the most iconic truck and cool thing. And I remember Tulsa, perfect example. We saw, gosh dang it, Rudy's truck.
Yep.
His Kenworth.
Yep.
And that was the first time we saw a pimped out Kenworth like that.
Slammed on the ground.
And that was the first time we ever saw a freaking bumper all the way down the ground, you know. And we're like, oh my god, like. My new favorite truck's Kenworth, you know, and then you start seeing the slope nose stuff, you know, Barry's old truck that Bear has, you know.
Big Bear's got it.
Big Bear's got it, and we saw that.
Honestly,
that wasn't in Tulsa. We saw that up here, I think, because we got to work on it the first time. I think in Waupun, he brought it here.
Yeah,
it's our first year at Waupun, and that was our first.
Honestly, that was the truck that changed arrows for me. Like, I had seen some people doing arrows, and there was a lot of cool stuff going on the West Coast. But when Barry did it and took it to Louisville that year, that was it for me.
And won?
Yeah. It was like, it just blew me away because he did some things in that nobody else had done before. I mean, putting a stack kit on it and just going crazy with it, the picket elbows, like, that was the first one that, like, I knew the industry was going to change a little bit. Like, that arrow put other arrows on the map and put people on their toes to the point of, oh boy, we can do something cool with an arrow.
You know a story I always tell?
And then Clint Dix got into it.
Yeah, I was just going to say the craziest thing that ever
his Volvo he did for 75 Crow Shop.
Are you kidding me? Like, I'm like,
It was the coolest Volvo I'd ever seen.
yeah, I seen it and I'm like, oh my god, this should never come out of my mouth together. And you shouldn't really knock Volvos. I mean,
No.
they're probably one of the best riding trucks. I don't know.
Listen, I'll polish anything.
Yeah, we will. It's weird. Everyone always asks, what do you do the most of? Obviously, I'll say right now, Peterbilts or W9s, because obviously they got the most stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, it goes back to Iconics. A lot of these guys getting in owner ops, you can tell that's the cool stuff, and that's what people want when they buy their own trucks. The guys we're usually dealing with.
Yeah.
And I say, not really jokingly, but Volvos and Macs are about the least, and they're like, yeah.
We did all Macs today.
But it's just weird because a lot of times, when it comes to those trucks, though, they're usually fleet trucks and they don't get, polished, and it's kind of neat to see, Clint Dix having that truck. I mean, you could proudly drive that truck, if you're, one of those guys, and it's. And I think
Jason Justy, he's got a Volvo and he loves the hell out of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool, and it's neat to see that different stuff, instead of, and that's why I tell a lot of guys that.
Even Dawes this week.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly.
And it all stemmed from, I feel like, Barry's truck, because that's when and maybe there was people doing it before that. I didn't notice it until that truck, and his paint was wet. Like that black paint, you could fall into it.
My honest opinion, this is before we ever really got into the whole crazy show. I remember people talking about that it went, because we were in polishing at that time, I think, and I remember people talking about that truck in Nebraska where show trucking isn't ginormous.
Yeah, it wasn't a big thing over there.
They're like, you should have seen this Arrow at freaking Louisville won it, and it's so crazy.
There's like, 2 show trucks in the entire state?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Maybe 1.
Wisconsin builds a lot, because I feel like that's all we got to do all winter.
I don't understand it either. I don't think anyone understands it.
But you guys have quite a few nice trucks over there. There's a lot of people that have show quality rigs.
Really nice working show trucks over there, honestly.
That don't ever go to shows. They never leave the state.
Trucks that we see on the internet. Yeah. That when you're voting for Louisville this year, you had to vote, and there's trucks from Nebraska. I'm like, I've never even seen that. That's super cool. Where the heck is this thing at? There's a lot of trucks that are even not in Nebraska that are just hidden somewhere that you'll never even know that exists, and it's kind of sad. You wish you'd show it, and I think some people get a bad taste of the show world, because if you don't live that life, you don't understand it.
They showed up thinking they had the coolest truck, and then somebody else came in and beat them, and they didn't feel like that truck was better than theirs.
Yeah,
that's tough on a lot of people. You've spent $300,000-$400,000 for some of these trucks. If you get beat out by a guy that's not as good, of course politics is the easy answer. Like, I got beat out because that guy knew the judge. No. Sometimes, sure, but
you got beat out because you didn't go above and beyond knowing what needed to be done.
Some of the little stuff
to prep.
I've seen a lot of really cool trucks win on the little or lose on the little stuff. Like clocking your tires.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Not to give everything away, but everybody knows that clocking your tires. I mean, that's people don't understand that, and
walk around the show. You can pick them out. You know which ones aren't clocking their tires, which ones the valve stems are in the wrong spot. Like,
and another thing, this is and people should know, is just wiring in general. You know what I mean? Like,
if it's not loomed and tucked away.
Yeah, and just hidden hidden away. I mean, it's just hanging down underneath a sleeper.
Yep.
They see that stuff. But people don't realize that they got a truck from the outside looks, whoa, this is crazy.
You got to think some of these judges have been judging for 30 years, and it's like they've seen all these nice trucks for 30 years. They've fine-tuned their process too, and it's like they look underneath the bunk and there's just a rat's nest under there, and you're like, that guy next to you spent 50 hours just looming his wires and making sure it was perfect. Yeah, that's where he lost. I hate saying it that way because some of these guys do have really cool trucks, and I like seeing the guys that come in and get smacked and then come back next year and they're like, where can I improve? And they figure it out, and next year they come back and win against that other truck. And it's not just because that other truck's been on the scene for too much longer.
No.
It's because you made the improvements and put in the time and effort to actually where your truck should have been the year before.
Yep. Yeah, it's
we've seen it a number of times.
Yeah. Well, we've seen it, perfect example. I'm not going to give names of the people, but there's 2 trucks, and we were going back and forth trying to figure out if our truck was going to be okay until we went and looked at the other truck. And the truck, that's kind of where I go back, and we were just talking about it. The truck from the outside looked like it was going to beat our truck.
Yeah.
I mean, all day long. It was like, that thing's hands down is insanity.
Yeah.
Until you really looked at it, and like you said, it goes back to all the little stuff you figured out over the years.
Yep.
What to do.
You start looking in those places where the judges look, and you're like, whoa, this is filthy.
Yeah, this thing is terrible. You know what I mean?
There's wire not even in looms.
Yeah, just hanging down on the frame and things like that. And when we started seeing that, and it was like, okay, this is a little bit better now, you know. But from the outside, you know, it looked. And
even then, like, even though. So this is where the politics come into play, and I don't want to give away all my secrets, but like I always tell my guys that we do work for, you are a used truck salesman. All the great guys that I know that have done really well on the circuit, I'm going to throw Robbie Bassey's name out there. Robbie Bassey was one of the best showmen. Like, when he went to a show, if he knew he was stronger than another truck in certain areas and his truck was lacking in other areas, he'd point out the areas on the other truck, knowing where they were going to be not doing well. So that in the judge's mind, before they even got to that next truck, they knew, like, all right, he talked about wiring hanging down, we need to look at this. And it was like, that put him a step above all the time, because he wasn't pointing out his stuff. Like, he was working around it, and he was making sure that they knew what needed to be where, and this is his strong points, and he pitched his strong points and pitched his competitors' weak points, and not like bashing them, but like, this is where I excel. I took the extra time to move this and move that, where if you look at some of the other trucks in my class, they won't have that. And it was like, he wasn't necessarily picking out any person in particular, but he gave the judges something to look at other trucks that he knew wasn't as strong. So it was like, Robbie was a showman. Like, him and I had this conversation at the Daytona 500 this year, and
was there a guy too, not change the subject, that used to wear a suit all the time or something like that? Every time he would give his driver. Give his presentation. I never got to see it.
You know, for what it's worth, like, it's a great conversation piece.
Yeah.
Like, yes, a lot of people look at it that it's comical, but he's a showman. Like, he sales pitches his stuff, and he is on it. Like, he knows what he needs to do, and his driver presentation he always does well, because he presents himself well, he looks professional, and he knows what he's talking about. So it's like a great conversation piece, and he knows what he's doing. So it just kind of all goes together.
You know, people watching this that don't even know about the show trucking world, they're like, they give drivers presentations? People judge it's
at the top level. That's how it is.
It is. It's crazy. You would never know this world existed or what we're
until you're in it.
Until you're in it. You're like, holy cow, this is.
And then when you find out most of the shows don't pay anything, they're like, you spent $400,000 on a truck to go for a trophy that doesn't pay you anything. Like, it's fun.
It is.
It's absorbing.
But you look at other stuff that people do, and you're like, why would you spend that much money doing it? It's just a waste of time. Just, people talk about race cars. It's just a waste of money.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a lot of things? It's just, it gets in your. The trucking industry. If you get involved in it, it is. And if you get involved in it, like if you watch a lot of the rolling interview guys that do, the first thing they say is, my dad trucked, my grandpa trucked, and it's just been your way of life. And once you're involved into it, oh my gosh, it just the trucking industry, not even the polishing, just the truck.
See, that's one thing I want to bring up. Is how many polishers do you know that were like, my dad was in polishing and that's why I got into polishing?
Actually, I think I know one, and I don't even know if that's a true story or not.
I can count most of the ones I know.
I think I know
like one or two hands.
Yeah. I think
like
I know
less than 10.
One that was like, because his dad was a polisher years ago. Yeah, as of 5 years ago, I didn't even know they polished trucks. You know what I mean? I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, what is that guy doing over there? And they're like, he's polishing their trucks. He makes a lot of money. I'm like, yeah, right. So I go, what do? I start driving over there, and he comes up.
Your story and my story is almost exactly the same.
Yeah, and he comes up, and I kind of made up a BS deal because I don't know this guy and I don't know anything about this business, and I wanted to learn a little bit because I was like, he's making money. I want to know what he's charging.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, I got a buddy and up over in so and so, he's about 30 minutes away, and it was a real buddy. He just did. I don't think he knew about polishing either, but he did own a semi.
Yeah.
And he was just wondering what it costs to get this done, and he starts naming this out on how much it costs. And then I start racking that all up in my head, and then I'm like, holy cow, well, you don't realize that you got to have knowledge, and you got to be able to, it's kind of like tattooing. It's not like it costs a lot to get into it, but it's the
cheap
knowledge.
to start.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very inexpensive, which sucks in a sense because a lot of...
I think that's why there's less businessmen in it.
Yeah.
Because there's not a whole lot of investments, so just anybody can go and start what we do.
Exactly. And it sucks in the sense, too, is I think it's actually ruined a lot of kind of good businessmen in the world because of the fact...
Some of the cheap guys come into their area.
Well, that, or you work for me, and you're like, I'll just go buy a grinder.
Go do this myself.
Yeah, I'll just go do it myself.
Yeah.
And then you don't realize, well, I gotta buy rouge, I gotta make sure I have fuel, I gotta pay for a hotel, I gotta make sure, and that's kind of the rule on any even construction or
I've had
anything.
it happen to me so many times over the years. I've lost good guys that went off on their own.
Yeah.
Like, it's brutal. Like, most of my guys sign non-competes now, which it is what it is.
That's what I'm saying. And there's some states, and that was my problem in Nebraska.
They don't hold up.
They won't hold up.
Yeah.
They'll just sit there and freaking
take you to court.
They'll take you to court, and it just won't do anything. So then it's like, well, what do I do? Because I'm giving them.
It sucks. How do you protect yourself?
Exactly.
I'm teaching you a trade, and then you can just go and take it and do it what you want. Like, that's brutal.
It's kind of like dent poppers.
Yeah.
That's why I always tried getting in with those guys, and those guys, you think polishers are a pain in the butt to get information out of.
Dent repair.
Those guys will not tell you anything. And you can sit and watch them, and you might think you're learning it. You have no idea what they're doing.
I've watched 1,000
Yeah, and I'm like, and I hear what they're making, and I'm like, oh my God.
I can follow hailstones.
Yeah, I'll just do this all day long. I'll do this for the rest of my life, making this kind of money.
Yeah.
Until, I bought...
They're on the road worse than we are.
Yeah, they are. And
they chase all them hailstorms.
Yeah, And I bought a kit to try it. And I'll tell you right now, when you look at the $10,000 kit, that's the kit that you're really not the $50 kit on Amazon. It doesn't work that way, And the crazy thing is I got a buddy that does it, and I tried getting him to help me learn how to do it, and he wouldn't. But he's wanted me to show him how to polish. That's how kind of weird that is. And
I was like, all right, I'll show you a little. You show me a little.
He won't even show me anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Ever. Yeah, that's I don't know. I don't know if I could do it though. That's tedious work, man, and it's repetitive, like super.
Well, polishing's repetitive too, but it's a lot less tedious.
I think, and we've talked about this, Parker and I, and I've talked about this with other people. To me, in my head, polishing is repetitive in a sense,
but it's not.
It's
hard to explain it.
It is. It's the same exact thing every single time. I think what helps but it's something different all the time. So it's not, you might have a tank worse than the other, or you might, it's the same, and that's what I'm trying to teach people.
Yeah.
They're like, well, what this? Well, yeah, there is little different things, but it's the same thing every single time. It doesn't really change the core of it. There's little things that shoot off where, well, if you do it this way a little bit, it's quicker or faster or whatever it may be, but...
That is recording, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Just double checking.
But, it's one of those...
So my last question I'm going to ask you, and then I'll open the floor, you can ask me a question. Last question I'm going to ask you is, what was the biggest thing that you walked in and you were like, this is going to be easy money, and then wham, you got burnt on it? Like, it didn't work out as well as you thought it was gonna. You thought you were gonna make easy money on it. It burnt you.
How much time you got on there? How long did we record? This has happened a billion times.
What's the worst one?
Oh man,
Parker's itching over there. I can tell.
What are you?
No, I'm just wondering which one you're thinking of.
There's so many that
we do it all the time.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I try to do it less and less now. That I've been doing
that's
it.
the problem is because maybe that grain trailer.
I know we've touched on that a little.
Yeah,
earlier,
that grain trailer. I thought.
I don't think that was the worst one.
No, that was pretty rough. But I was intimidated by it. But I didn't think it was going to cost me as much. Was when we all did, we had another polishing crew helping us out too. We did a giant aluminum tank. It went on, it's like a fuel tank. We did that a few years back.
Truck.
You remember it?
Oh, the straight truck fuel tank.
Yeah, it's giant.
I do remember that.
And
you quoted that one really low.
Yeah, and when we...
I remember you telling me that one too. You're like, I just want to do one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're going to eat it.
For pretty much what I did, profit, or not profit. No, that's not even
what you charge.
Yeah, what I charge.
Is what you put into materials.
Yeah, it's sandpaper.
Yeah.
I mean,
without the buffs and
yeah, exactly. And then I got to pay 3 other people. I got to pay a whole other polishing crew that's using his materials. On top of that, so
I do remember that.
Yeah, so I got to pay for his material costs and him. Which is all kind of wrapped into one type bill, but still. And then I got to pay 2 other helpers of mine.
So what do you think you ended up losing on that trip?
Oh man, it wasn't even a trip. That was at home still. I bet I lost. Oh, it was in the thousands. I'm sure. I don't even remember. I'd say.
I hate asking and bringing it up because I know it's a soft spot for everybody. But at the same time, I want polishers or detailers that are listening to this to understand that even though I'm 20 years in, I still make mistakes and I get burnt once in a while. And I know you're a lot like me. Like if we estimate it low and it comes in high, like I don't make the customer eat it. I eat it.
No, and that's what I try to explain to them every time is. And that's why it's so hard to give quotes over the phone. Because
I don't estimate anything without seeing.
No, it's so hard because you
guys get mad when they hear that.
Well, and I love it when people are like, "Oh, you should have charged them more." I'm sorry, I'm not that guy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And we had a big deal on that. On a truck that was really rough, and we bid. Well, what we did is we bid the whole fleet out. Is what we did, and we got one truck in there. Pretty much what it was is X amount per truck.
Yeah.
And when that truck came in, it was second to last. We'd never seen it. We didn't know. The rest of the trucks were all good. We were doing all right there, and that second to last truck came in, and. It did. I told them instantly. I said, "Hey, for what I'm charging you, we all agreed at. This thing's gonna look terrible."
Yeah.
And they said, "Okay, we understand that.
Do the best you can for that budget.
Do it the best you can for that money."
And I feel like that's where some of us get in trouble, is when you're talking with an owner usually sets a budget for you.
Yeah.
And their drivers don't always understand that.
No, their drivers don't ever understand that.
I've lost some pretty decent customers over the years because their driver had this expectation way up here, and the boss only had this expectation. But once the employee got in and looked at it, and he's like, "Well, this wasn't what I was expecting." Well, then he starts pitching his story to the boss, and then the boss is like, "Well, yeah, I didn't really think about that. Like, yeah, this was my budget, but this is what he was expecting. Maybe the budget and what I got wasn't what we discussed." And then they start wrapping this around, and sometimes it turns around on me. I got screwed on that a couple times.
It does. And going back to this truck, kind of what you said, you'll eat it. And what ended up happening is we went above and beyond. We speed sanded this thing. We ended up sanding diamond plate, which isn't even really possible.
It sucks.
It's terrible.
It's not worth it.
It's not. But we did just try to make it look better.
Yeah.
And this truck was pure white. It had been asked. I'm pretty sure every time they drove by a truck wash, they had them dump every bit of it on there they had.
Yep.
And it turned out. I'll be honest. It turned out terrible. And what makes me the maddest of it all, what hurt me the most, was when the driver's like, "I understand it was bad," and then turned around and bashed us on it.
And posted on social media.
Posted on social media, attacking me after he just said, "I understand how bad it was." You know what I mean? And,
well, that's the problem too. Is they get some of their friends involved, and their friends are like, "Yeah, we've had other polishers through here, and they never left it like this." Well, you're right. But those other guys that would have never left it like that also charge your boss $1,500, where I was at a $500 budget.
Yeah, exactly.
And those guys don't come back anymore because your boss just said, "I'm not paying $1,500."
Exactly. And then you get other guys chiming in, and that's another thing that sucks. Once you get to they'll kind of level what your name is at.
Yeah, you call them across.
Everybody has got a target on you. Or
I've lost good customers that way too.
Yeah,
Everybody thinks that everything you put out is show quality,
mm-hmm.
and it's like, listen, I'll give you what you want.
Yeah,
I don't have to give you show quality if that's not what you want. And then sometimes I read the person wrong, and it turns out they wanted show quality out of something that isn't going to turn into show quality. Like, some people don't understand that too. Is they see some of our show quality truck that we do, and they don't realize, like, that guy gets polished 6 times a year
exactly.
to stay at that show quality level. And they want a truck that's been acidized for the last 15 years to be a show truck in one shot. Like, and I tell a lot of people, like, your truck took 15 years to get this white and rotted. I'm not going to turn it into a show truck in one shot. If you work with me and take your time and stick with it, like, I can get your truck there over the course of a few polishes and keeping it nice.
Here's the deal, and this is how I explain it too, and maybe you'll disagree with this. I can make it look like his truck, but either A, you're going to have to go buy all brand new rims and boxes and tanks, or what we can do is you can leave it here for the next month. It's going to cost you about 10 grand.
I'll polish it once a week for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
To get it to that level.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, that's what I mean. Is that's not attainable. How many guys do you know that would park their truck for an entire month so you can polish it once a week and just keep getting that moisture into the wheels?
Yeah.
And I've seen guys Tiger Paw stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen them sand with 40 grit. Like, I used to be that guy. Like, I wanted every pit out. Sometimes shiny pits are just better than no pits.
Yeah. And what people don't understand too, and it took us a little bit to figure this out as well, and you just always preach me about it, is your first thought is sanding. You have to sand everything.
Sanding doesn't always benefit.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And it takes you to do a kinder or a roughish tank. To me, that was the biggest.
Yeah.
You know, a roughish tank where I noticed it the most, to not sand it, cut color it, and then one in the same that looked the same, to sand it, cut color it, and weirdly enough, the sanding tank looked worse than just the cut color tank.
Sometimes it does, yeah.
It almost has a cloudyish, more look to it. Well, you're really irritating the metal too, you know.
I mean, if you sand it deep, you're always going to get a great shine out of it, because you're just going to build a ton more heat in the metal. You're always going to get it. We actually touched on that a little bit yesterday, that if you build up a ton of heat, it's going to melt it and look really good. But
then that goes back to is you better be charging for your time as well.
Yep.
And that's where I think a lot of guys go wrong. I went wrong. Everybody goes wrong. Where
the
you're
learning
like,
curve.
Yeah, the learning curve. Where let's say you're charging. Let's just say in the beginning, I used to be actually, when I first started charging by the piece, I was more expensive than I am now. So I went from charging X amount to charging X amount for one truck to charging X amount per parts. And then we went cheaper. So in the beginning, we were charging $100 a tank. I'll never forget that. I wish I was still there, actually.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I wish I could get this.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't even know how we got away with it.
Like, you saw my invoicing today, and you're like, whoa, I thought I was cheap.
Yeah, you know, and
it was fleet stuff today.
Yeah, so, but even let's say I charged $100 for that tank, which is a lot in my eyes.
Yeah.
To some people, that's not enough. But
we know a lot of guys that are $300, $400, $500 a tank.
Crazy. Or they charge by the gallon and whatever.
$1 a gallon, $2 a gallon. It's like, whoa, buddy.
But anyways, even if I charge $100 for that tank, and it took me, and it was rough, and it took me 4 or 5 hours just to sand and cut color that thing.
Yep.
Was it? You know what I mean? Is it really worth it? And you know, maybe by the hour, someone will be like, "Well, I wish I kind of made that money." And you know what I mean?
$25 an hour.
That's
but
pretty
by
good.
the time you factor in materials and
taxes, materials to everything, you're like, "Wow, yeah."
I should have worked at McDonald's today.
Yeah, you know, and I think that's another really hard thing for every polisher to get over, and it took me a long while to get over. And I know Parker even still, you know, after 3 years, he fights with it a little bit too.
The perfectionist.
The perfectionist.
You gotta.
Well, and also with social media, that kind of really puts a shine on you a little bit, because the fact you're like, gosh, I don't want another polisher to see this and nitpick it apart.
Yeah, if my work's not perfect.
If it's not up to par and perfect.
I've gotten past that. I mean, it took me 20 years to get there, but it's like, if somebody's gonna pick me apart, they weren't my customer.
Yeah.
Like, if my customer's not happy before he leaves, I don't listen to anything after he's left. Like, if he gets home and his buddy, like, ramrods me when he gets home, I'm sorry, when you left here, you were happy. Like, I don't, not that I don't care about what happened after, but, like, you and I discussed it. We worked through it. You were happy. What happened? Your friend talked you out of it? Well, did your friend pay the bill? Did you tell him what you paid? Did you show him how rough it was before we started? Like, I'm sorry, but you saw it ahead of time. We agreed upon it. When you left, you were happy. Let's leave it at that. And it saved me a few times having that. But that was one of the other questions that I usually try to ask everybody is like, what's the best piece of advice you could give to a fellow polisher or somebody that's just starting off? And I feel like that's probably yours, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because that's one you bring up to me a lot.
And every new polisher that I've ever talked to, that's their biggest issue.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, well, I can't get 4 trucks done in one day.
I just got to make everything perfect.
Yeah, because there's no way you can do that in.
I don't know how you're charging $300, $400, $500.
You know what gets me though is they come see our work, and I did the same thing. They see our work and they're like, man, this looks really good. I'm doing less work than you are, and it looks just as good. That's the weird thing, and it's not that I'm more talented, really, per se, than you.
It's the process.
It's just the process, you know, and you can still do really good work and do it at a fast pace, you know. I'm not saying it's going to be super show quality on a freaking old farm truck, you know, but you're still going to have a really good shine to it, and it's going to have clarity and everything at a fast pace instead of sitting there for 3 days working on it and losing your butt on the whole thing, you know. So
yeah, no, I agree.
How long have we been recording?
Almost 2 hours.
I thought we were gonna do an hour.
I wonder I'm over here about to fall asleep.
Yeah, sorry for everybody that's watching and listening to this full 2 hours. But honestly, you've really given a lot of really good information in this 2 hours. I mean, for the people that are muscling through the entire 2 hours here, like, there was a lot of good snippets in there that, I don't know, a lot of good things got explained that I know a lot of people have asked me over the years that I haven't put out in videos or I haven't put out in... And that's really the reason why I wanted to do this podcast, is because just the two of us spitballing and talking is getting a lot of stuff out there, that conversations I have with polishers that I hadn't really recorded before. And I wish I had recorded a lot of these conversations, because if I had and putting it on YouTube, a lot more people would have had more content. Like, I've said this a bunch of times before. You know who this polisher is. You met him. He always complained that I never answered the questions that he had properly. What he never understood was I was answering the questions he gave me.
Mm-hmm.
His question wasn't the right question. Like, and I don't know that he was trying to figure out X, but asking me about Y.
Exactly.
He was asking me about X, and I gave him an explanation for X, but he really wanted to know Y, and there wasn't a Y for me to see. So, like, without me being there, I couldn't really properly answer the question. So I felt like the reason for starting this podcast was so that it would bring up conversations like this that we would normally have over the phone, and it would get worked through. And then I don't think about it when I'm sitting here by myself doing my YouTube videos. Like, it's hard to have those conversations with nobody on the other side. I know people are going to watch these on the YouTube channel, and it's like, all right, this is good stuff, but who's going to watch it, and how am I going to get it across without somebody else spitballing and talking with me, you know? So when we had this idea for the podcast, this was kind of the format we were shooting for, was if it ends up being a 2-hour video, so be it. Like, people will watch 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of it, and they'll skip through to parts they want to see, and that's perfectly fine. I'm okay with that. But for the people that sit down and listen to the full 2 hours, they're going to be like, oh my God, I pulled this little good nugget out of there and this little good nugget out of there. And maybe more people will get better knowledge out of that.
And I want to put a little bit on this whole deal when you started explaining this too, having a conversation with another polisher. I've ran into it, and I know I've said things to you, and you're like, well, why wouldn't they have just asked me? I think because of, how should I say this without people really blowing this at the other polisher saying something. How do I word this?
People put me up on a different pedestal.
What I'm saying is for what you've accomplished, for what you've done, to
some people they think I'm not approachable.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're not, and it doesn't drive me nuts as much as it drives you nuts when I say, yeah, so and so asked me about this, and you're like, why wouldn't they just ask me?
I'm just a regular person.
It's personal about you almost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's almost the fact it's like you're not approachable, or you're not going to tell them the information.
5 times a day I get people go, oh my God, this is actually Evan?
Yeah.
You answer your own phone? Yeah. Like, it's my phone.
You know, the funny thing is when you ever came to Nebraska, and Caitlin's like, I gotta clean the house, and I'd already met you. We'd been working, whatever. But I remember, and she's like, well, he's kind of a big deal, and I'm like, what? Like, but you know,
you guys have stayed at my house a number of
exactly.
times.
We'd already known you and stuff, but at the same time, I remember when I was getting into this, I used to always talk about you all the time. You know, I was like, oh my God, this guy's doing tow truck. I mean, look at all the crazy things he's doing and the places he gets to go.
But I'm just a regular guy. My house is dirty like everybody else.
What I love though is having these conversations, especially for me. I feel I've said this to you a million times. I wouldn't be able to get to do the things I've done without you. But also at the same time, I had to work for it as well.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You put in the work.
I had to do the hours too. You just gave me the door. It fast forwarded me to that door, you know. So I didn't have to put in and make more mistakes than I needed to get to that point.
Some of those were your own fault.
No, I know.
I tried to talk you out of.
No, I know. But I mean, to get to the places where I needed to be in making the mistakes and trying to work through them, is I was already ahead of that mistake. You know what I mean? I already knew what to expect and what to do, you know, and having you around. But at the same time, perfect example, it's not like you picked me from somewhere. You know what I mean? It's not like you didn't know who I was and you're like, I'm going to take this guy and go all over, you know what I mean? Go everywhere and do all that.
It was a happy accident.
It was, but it's the proof that if you watch his content and you want to do what Evan does, it's not
unattainable.
No, you can't. It's not like you can't get it, but you gotta work.
What are you willing to sacrifice? That's what I tell every.
That is, you have to sacrifice everything, and I can't, without getting really weird and getting
emotional,
really personal and weird. Is you're not gonna have friends anymore. You know what I mean? If you want to go out to the bars and do all that. I
don't feel like that's unique in polishing though. Like
no, that's in anyone who's really good at their craft. If you I listen to him a lot, and people think it's weird, and I guarantee you, like inspirational stuff.
Yeah.
It's the same message all the time.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. All those athletes.
You listen to Gary Vee or you listen to Michael Jordan or across other platforms, like they all say the same thing. I just outworked the next guy
and sacrificed everything.
Yeah.
And all I did was just 100%. You know, and I gave it 100% all the time. And honestly, looking back at it, even if this isn't my end game, and I always say I hope it's not, but it probably will be. But, I always say that. But even if it's not my end game, it really opened my mind up to getting to where I'm at, and not even saying I'm way up there, but to getting where I'm at, that it's not impossible to do anything.
No.
You know, all those guys saying it's not impossible for you to do this or whatever you want to do.
Look at the owner of Alibaba. Knew nothing about anything. He just hired in the right people to get there and just put in the extra work to find those right people. Like, anything's possible. I listen to a lot of the inspirational
stuff. Look at Jeff Bezos.
Too.
I mean, you know what I mean? The hour. I mean, look at him. You know, I mean, everyone thought he was nuts. I mean, he was in his garage or whatever. Yeah. You know, had a freaking homemade sign up.
He was only shipping books. I think Amazon was only books when it started.
Yeah.
And now they're talking about groceries. Like,
and he's the wealthiest man in the world.
But literally.
Yeah.
How is that even possible?
I really think a lot of these new guys that want to do what you do or what we get to do, they shouldn't get frustrated in the first, and it's tough because in your first year, you're like, I'm never going to be able to get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it also took us how long and how many hours and...
Dude, for 6 years, I sucked.
Yeah.
I'll admit it, my first 6 years was not great.
But, like I said, too, for me, it's kind of a weird deal for me. Because you had to go through all the BS and build your brand to where I am. I just was lucky enough to get on board
Yeah, but
why
you
were going up.
You were headed on a pretty good trajectory.
No, we were going all right, you know. But we would have never been where we're at now.
I just strapped a rocket to your back.
No, exactly. I'd say in 5 years I would have never been to where I am now, and the things that we've gotten to do, we just got fast forward a lot quicker than everybody.
I don't think it was unattainable for you. I think you could have done it on your own.
It would have taken.
You'd have gone through that 10 years.
Exactly. It would have taken those long years, and you know, to get to this point. But I don't know. I don't know if I would have made it that long. You know, I don't know if I would have had that much drive.
I can't tell you how many polishers I see just get burnt out and just quit, because it's like you get stuck. You do a whole bunch of trucks right out the gate because you're the new guy, and you're cheap or you're good, and it's like I see a lot of guys get burnt out really quick, and then when business isn't as busy that second or third year, and they're like,
or just winter shows,
like I'm gonna go find
and you don't live in the South, you know what I mean? And
I'm gonna go find a different job and go make real money.
And if you stick with it, winter sucks. I mean, even for us, you know what I mean. Winter's not the best in the world. I'm lucky enough, just as last year, I was blessed enough to have a customer that is big enough to where he's at to keep us. We're not. It's not like we're getting rich during the winter, but I mean, it
just keeps you busy.
Yeah, and it keeps us busy, and it keeps our bills paid through the winter time. And I don't have to travel.
I'm 20 years in. I'm still doing that sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, we built a whole nother brand this last year. It was like all winter long. We were like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Let's go find some work this winter.
Yeah, and that's not the easy. Unless you want to travel.
Are we going to Florida?
Exactly. You got to go to Florida, Texas or
California,
somewhere, you know, or Arizona, which somewhere where it's hot.
I'm lucky I train all winter because honestly, it just keeps the bills paid. But yeah, it could be bad.
Yeah, my first winter. I'll be completely honest with you. I got to give her a shout out. If it wasn't for my mom my mom made sure that I didn't fail. You know, she helped out a lot. You know, because there was times when I had no money at all. You know. Yeah. And then you came in the group, or the group. You came in the mix, and even before I was in Evans, though, you know, and that's another thing. You know, I've got into it with guys. We're not going to go down that whole whatever, but where guys have asked why the loyalty to you, and I tell them the same thing every time, and whoever's watching it, some people watch this that I've said this to, that have questioned it, is no one cared who I was in the beginning, no one cared about anything I was doing, no one cared that I was broke beyond belief and had no money anywhere, and one person made sure that I had product, that I had stuff to do, that I knew, you know what I mean, that I had things. Yeah. And I said, no one else, and not sound like you weren't there. You know what I mean? They weren't there. They weren't calling me. You know, in their defense, at that time, they didn't know me. Yeah. But still, the probability of them, you know, doing what you did for me would never, and that's just the way it is. You and I, we've had everyone thinks that like we have the best perfect relationship. They don't know what I'm like to
There's been times where we were yelling at each other.
You know, people that meet me, it's so funny. People that met me, they've seen the stupid videos we used to make all the time, you know, and
I miss those. Honestly, I wish you'd bring them back. I wish you'd bring them back.
I do, but sometimes I don't know. To me, we went over the top, and then people were like, I can't believe you do that. And I'm like, it was all a joke, man. And people take that stuff serious. Like, it was never anything bad, but, you know, some of the things we did, you know, like the face.
I do appreciate that you've cleaned your life up, and you're
well, we were not so hillbilly, you know? I mean,
and I don't even care that you were hillbilly. Like, it was just bad for your health.
But even some of that was a joke, you know? I mean, like,
I know.
I mean, we weren't completely stupid. We knew that sold, and people loved watching stupid things. And
it definitely kicked off pretty fast.
You know, and people loved watching that. Like, oh, look at these stupid hillbillies. They're just dumb. They're just going to kill themselves. And the funniest thing is when I first started going to shows with you, a lot of those polishers that saw that stuff that were friends with you, and I went into Evansdale's, and then they'd meet me at a show. And I'd just be sitting there and they'd be like, wow, he's really not like completely and utterly out of control and like yelling and doing stupid things all the time. I'm like, really, honestly, I'm just got
a regular
guy. I just want to just sit here and relax. And and not do stupid things all the time. You know, we have fun with it, but
that's funny.
It's tough too anymore. I shouldn't say it was funner back then. We just didn't take it as seriously. And now that you take it seriously, it's hard to do fun things and stay as busy as we are, you know, and taking the...
You hate to be goofing off, especially when you're working on the customer's truck.
Exactly. And even if some of the customers wouldn't care if we are.
Back when people weren't paying as much attention. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It wasn't so bad.
Exactly. And you wouldn't have social media just tear you in pieces and take it out of content and just... Then it's like... It's so stupid, you know. Why can't we just have fun and do fun things like that when now it's not only me I got to worry about. I got your reputation in a sense, and all the other Evans guys that I got to worry about, and we're probably the most black sheep out of all of them to do dumb things and have fun. But at the same time, we really got to watch ourselves because it's not only
you're under a microscope 24/7.
Exactly that, and it's not only affecting us. If it was just me, I probably wouldn't care. You know, as bad.
And I know what you mean.
If I'm going to hurt someone else, I'm not going to intentionally hurt you or Kansas or any of those guys. You know what I mean? Because we're like, well, those Nebraska guys are completely out of control.
Yeah.
You know, and I would never call any of those Evans guys. You know, and some people are like, I would never be that way. You'd be surprised. You know.
I know you got a lot of questions, but what's one question you'd like to ask me?
This is going to sound completely cliche and stupid. Would you ever change anything?
When I was putting this list together, like questions I want to ask everybody, I was like, I hope nobody ever asks me if I'd change anything. There's days where I was like, I wish I would have picked a different career path. But...
You and I have this conversation a lot, though.
We do. Yeah. We talk about this a lot, and I was afraid you were going to be the one person to ask me.
That's the first thing that popped when you said something about that, and that's the first thing that popped in my head. Is like, because we talk about this. It's tough. I mean,
it's tough because I honestly love it. I love the instant gratification of it. I love doing this every day. Don't get me wrong, but there's days, and I feel like no matter what I do in life, you're going to have those days. But in the grand scheme of things, I couldn't see myself doing anything else.
Yeah.
And I think...
Isn't it weird, too, to think that this is what you were going to do in life? You would have never thought of this. You know what I mean?
No truckers in my family.
Yeah.
No polishers in my family. Yeah. Just nothing.
Yeah.
No rhyme or reason to why I went down this road.
Ever.
And here I am. Here we sit.
Yeah.
You know, like, I got to meet a lot of really cool people in my life. I've run into some movie stars, celebrities, NASCAR drivers, racers, just... A lot of cool people, car builders.
Yeah, exactly. And even stuff like that people that aren't on television, the people that you get to meet that are extremely good at their craft, you know what I mean? That you would never get to meet before. That
and you get to ask them about their craft. Yeah. It's like, they're interested about your life.
Yeah,
You're interested about their life. Like, listen, polishing's nothing. Yeah, like, let's talk about your life.
No, kind of like what, I'll get into that some other time of who it is and what he does or whatever. But he was like, we were so excited to be there, and things fell completely apart on his end. It wasn't his fault, but they did. And he's apologizing to us, and we're just like, are you shitting me? Are you kidding me? We're at your shop, dude. Like, you called us. Like, we're here doing work for you. Like, I could care less if we just sit here, because now I get to talk to you the whole time and ask you about all these crazy cool things you've gotten to do. And, but yeah, it's nuts on.
So I wouldn't change anything. Like, if somebody told me tomorrow, like, listen, I'll let you go back 20 years ago and start over, I don't think I'd take that, because I don't know what else I'd want to do. Like, I've found a good niche, I found a good market, like, and I'm pretty decent at it. Like, I'm not the best. Like, there's a lot of greats out there. But I've been having fun with this thing. Like, we've had some rough times. Like, there's been some pretty low lows, and some times where I was like, forget it, I'm gonna find something else to do. But I didn't. I stuck with it, and I don't think I'd change anything. I don't think I'd go down that road. I think I'd stay where I'm at and keep pushing forward, and I'd make it work. But I hate that you had to ask it because I knew it was coming.
Well, yeah, like you and I have talked about that before, and not to answer his question too, but I think I'd be the same way.
Yeah.
You know, and even going the aspect of, this is getting kind of in the dark side of polishing, but just on how much it deteriorates your health.
Oh yeah.
And I still don't even think I'd change it. Just knowing what could come in the next 30, 40 years from the stupidness that everybody tried warning me in the beginning.
No respirators.
No respirators, no ear protection, no nothing, and there's just you know, Alzheimer's is a big link, you know, between aluminum dust. Yeah. So I mean, I tell people that it's almost a guarantee.
It's a risk we're taking.
Yeah, you know, and but I still don't think I'd change it. My kids would probably yell at me, and my grandkids.
Well, I'm glad. I hope you stick around for quite a while. I enjoy hanging out with you.
I don't think I'm going to make it that long, but you never know, guys.
But we're going to finish this up. I want to thank you, Zach, for coming on. This was Zach Cambron. He now runs Evans Detailing and Polishing Nebraska. He was American Polishing Pros.
Yeah, couldn't remember that.
He's still American Polishing Pros at heart.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful you came on board. I'm glad to have you. It's fun hanging out with you. He's up here for Waupun week right now, and this is one of my favorite weeks. Good to have a bunch of my guys in-house, hanging out, having a good time, polishing, doing what we all love, and just spending some good time together. So I appreciate you being on the podcast. I got a feeling this one's going to be the first podcast we released. As soon as I get this edited up, we're going to pop it off here, and I appreciate you for being a part of it.
Oh man, you know, I always get weird all the time and tell you how blessed I am to have met you and the things that I get to do, and it gets really weird, and then you so much want to cry, but no, you know what I mean.
There's been a few times where we've gotten close to crying.
You know, I love you. You know, like I got into before. No one else was there when I got into this, and I look back at it and just the successes that I got from it.
I'm grateful to see you grow.
Yeah,
like, I'm glad to have seen where you started, and I know that first year was rough. But it's been cool to sit back and watch you grow into where you've gotten now. I mean,
it hasn't been easy for either of us because I don't make anything easy.
No,
I'll tell you
there's nothing easy with you.
I will make it the hardest possible.
I'll tell you no, and you'll just say yes anyways.
Yeah, and I'll just do it anyways, and then you'll be like, "Told you," and I'll be like, "I still won." I don't make it easy.
But it's been great having you on. For those of the people that stuck around for the full 2 hours, we thank you guys. But there's a lot of good information here. I hope everybody at least took time to try and muscle through one time, because this is good stuff.
I think a lot of the beginners need to watch this to really just listen to all the BS. You know, and I know you're going to do a lot more with other, not just mine and yours, but just all the rest. Because I think I'm almost getting to that point, not like you, I hate to say it like that, but to the point where it's like, not real anymore, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you know, and that's I don't think that ever.
Just try to keep giving back. It'll help your heart. It'll help your soul. Just give back to the community a little bit, and it'll come back tenfold.
And one thing, you know, he is so much better than me about this. I want to point on this just a hair. It's stressful trying to help people too. It is so, because
it'll burn you out.
And people think that I'm a jerk sometimes, and I don't mean to be, but when it's not like everyone thinks, and I think another thing that people think is you just sit here all day, and this is what you do.
I appreciate that you've been here, you've seen it, like I'm in the shop 14, 16 hours, and answering the phone while I'm holding a grinder.
Exactly, and you, I don't know how the heck you do it. I've told you that a billion times. You know, because you'll get some of those guys like me, that were like me, and they'll call all the time.
Need that half-hour conversation.
Always, and they'll do it 3 times a day. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be a jerk and not help you. I gotta work, man. That's how I make a living.
I don't make money off those phone calls.
I would love to help you, and it's not that I don't want to give you.
I want to get home to my family
a secret or something, and it's not like I'm gonna guide you in the wrong direction or anything. It's just that
I try to get you the most efficient way to get it done, so that I can get back to work, so I can get home to my wife and kids.
Yeah, because it's real. It's only me and Parker, you know.
24 hours in a day.
Oh yeah, can't buy any more time.
Oh God, I bring that up so often. You can't buy more time.
Yep.
I wish somebody'd sell me some, because I'd buy a ton of it.
No kidding. Thank you guys for letting me be on here. Thank you, Evan. Love you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Have a good one, buddy.